He ended up selling that couple like 150,000 less than they bid. You get what you get.
Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order. This is the June 20th meeting of the Chico Unified School District Board of Trustees. Please rise for this flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I do have something to report in closed session. The board did vote for a new principal for Chico High School. It was a unanimous vote. His name is Mr. Doug Williams, and if he could rise and come on up to the podium. Welcome aboard, Mr. Williams. If you have anything to say to us, we'd be more than happy to listen. It'll go. Just keep talking.
I'm thrilled. I appreciate this opportunity. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Chico High School graduate, and I grew up within 100 yards of the school. So I'm extremely excited to give back to the community that gave me so much. I learned many things on the fields of Chico High and the classrooms at Chico High and in connection with the town of Chico. And I hope that I do the board and the town proud by leading Chico High to a bright future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm moving to superintendent's report.
So our students are on vacation, a well-deserved vacation, so we do not have a student report, but we do have some superintendent's awards to give out, and I'm going to move to the front podium. I'd like to invite Kim Hernandez, Brent Morrison, and Michelle Genova to join me. So earlier this year, our targeted case managers made us aware of a situation where we had some students that were in foster care that had gone through some pretty rough times. They had one set of clothes. They didn't want to take those clothes off because they were afraid they would get lost. It was a really sad situation, and I went to my Rotary captain, which is Mr. Brent Morrison behind me here, and he said, let's take this on. Let's go do some fundraising for these kids, and let's make sure that they have clothes, that they have personal hygiene items, and that's exactly what he had his team do. But then he said, you know what, let's make sure that we're not missing anyone. So we reached out to the schools and said, please let us know if you have kids that are in dire need. And we have a 15-person Rotary team, and we ended up finding clothes and personal hygiene items for 53 students. And these were 53 of our highest need kids. So I really want to thank Brent for taking this on as a Rotary team. Michelle was the action behind the scenes, making sure that the items, we had to keep everything confidential, so she had numbers, she made sure that the sizes got matched back to the number. Then Kim Hernandez on the Chico Unified side took it in, made sure that we got the items to our targeted case managers. So these three individuals deserve a big round of applause, and they are getting our Superintendent's Award for their actions. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jim Hanlon, who also has an award to give.
So I'd like to invite Patty Willis up to the front. Patty?
Yay, Patty! Woo!
So this wonderful lady has spent the last 18 years on PTSA boards at three different schools. The last 8 years she has been at Chico High, and she has served the last 5 years as the PTSA president. She's been to, I think, every LCAP meeting. She's done Sober Grad. She's done practically, I think she was on the last two principal interview panels for Chico High School. She does everything for Chico High School. She's always there. She's on there on the first day of school, on the last day of school, and a whole lot of days in between. I don't know how many meetings we've had, but she has given and given and given and given to Chico High School, and it has been a pleasure to work with Patty over the years. I don't think you're quite done yet either. Even though you won't be president, I think she's going to still hang around. But it is my pleasure to introduce Patty to you and recognize her for the Superintendent's Award. Thank you, Patty, so much.
Thank you.
Okay, me again. While she's only been with us 1 year, I'd like to recognize an individual who's already had a major impact on our district operations. Erica Smith, come join me. She's undertaken tremendous challenges in her first year here. She has updated and actually has us utilizing social media. She's updated our Facebook page, our website. We now have Snapchat. Most people do. I don't yet, but I'm getting there. Twitter. And she's used all of that to increase communication in such a positive way about all the wonderful things that are happening across the district. She serves as our photographer at many Chico Unified and community events. She initiated our rebranding effort, including the new logo. She's utilized her advertising and marketing skills to take that huge 116-page LCAP and put it into a one-page front and back, but one-page poster that really tells our Chico Unified story. She, as the board is aware, works very closely with the board to make sure that their needs are met, including all of their technology needs. She's hand-delivered board agendas, but most importantly is the interaction she has on a day-to-day basis with staff, with community. She is customer service, and I hear her on the phone with angry parents, and they really know that they're cared about, as does our community. So, Erica, thank you so much. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now moving over to our announcements. And Dr. Kaiser, I believe you have something for us.
I do. We have the distinct privilege of having 20 outstanding educators from 20 different countries. They were selected by their countries and then by the State Department. They are here with Diana Park, who is their MC specialist while they're on campus. And they will also go to, besides going to cities in California, they also go to Chicago and do a presentation there. So the poster idea I stole from them because they had 2 days to present their entire country and their education system in a poster, and they did it. So you'll see them around town. They're very friendly when they can stay awake. Some of them are 15 hours off their country's schedule, and for some reason their families and work think they can call them, you know, and wake them up. So, yes, so if you would please, if you would introduce yourself and your country, that would be great.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to touch that. That's me fiddling around with things. I wanted just to thank also the board for their support, and particularly Kathy. She also spent some time with them, not only as a host to take 3 of our educators for a day, but also came and spoke with them today and telling them a little bit more about our educational system. These 20 educators, wonderful, very highly competitive program for them to come. They are here and doing just a wonderful job, so easy and fun to work with. It is a federally U.S. government, Department of State funded. So thank you all as citizens for your input in allowing this type of international diplomacy to take place. So I'm going to let them go around and tell you all these. Just try to picture a map as they tell you the countries they are from.
Hello everybody, I'm Taban Simon Benson from South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you everybody. I am Ayaz, surname Abushov. I am from Azerbaijan.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick from Greece. Glad to be here.
Hello everyone, I'm Rashid from Algeria. Nice to meet you.
Hello everybody, I am Daniel from Ethiopia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike, and I'm from Honduras, and it's nice to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lilet Sarabia from the Philippines.
Hello, my name is Isabella from Romania.
Hello everyone, Jahid bin Martin from Bangladesh. Very nice to be here.
Hello everyone, I'm Sabah from Indonesia. Nice to meet you all.
Hello, I'm glad to be here, and I come from Moldova, which is a very small country between Romania and Ukraine.
Hello, I am Kamola. I am from Uzbekistan. Very pleased to be here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tamara from Macedonia, a small country near to Greece. Thank you. Glad to meet you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Orsolya Simon from Hungary, Central Europe.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ayşegül Gökban from Turkey. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marianela Granados, and I come from Costa Rica. I'm proud to be a teacher.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Romain Berlier. I'm from France and very happy to be here tonight.
Hello, everyone. I'm Raymond Kwasi from Côte d'Ivoire, West Africa. Nice to meet you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Đoàn Thanh Hương from Vietnam. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Neil Watson from New Zealand, which is a very small country, 3 hours away from Australia.
So they won't stay the whole board meeting. That would be excruciating. But they have had an overview of what's on the agenda and how complicated it is for some of us. And then if you see them around town, they actually like to party. And I think they're going to hit the Thursday night market, but they're very, very approachable, so you can say hello. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Any other announcements? Okay, we are now moving down to items from the floor. If somebody is here to address the board from an item that is not on the agenda, now is your time to come up. Okay, I see. Oh.
Hello, I'd just like to ask the board if you would consider hearing some of us here about the Form 10 policy. We have lots of young children. It's going to be a long meeting, and I'm just wondering if you're open to hearing some of our perspectives on the current board policy at this time.
The agenda's been set, and we've spent a lot of time going over its time. And like you asked me before, I'm going to give you pretty much the same answer for me, is that no, we cannot tonight.
Okay.
Okay, now moving to, I think we're on the consent agenda.
Mr. DeStahl?
Yes.
Maybe for those that do have small children that you need to leave before the presentation of the board policies, if someone has a prepared message, they could leave it with someone to provide their input to the board for those that do have small children that they need to leave with.
Okay.
I'd like to put that before the whole board because I really feel for these young parents. And if it's only going to be a matter of 10 minutes, switching out the time, how many speakers would there be? Okay, the other thing is that if we have the same people speaking on a topic and they're pretty much giving us the same message, we have 3 people who speak for, we have 3 people who speak against. We give the opportunity for that. If the same message is being repeated over and over and over again, that's not something, we're not going to want to switch things over because of that. Well, can we put this, first of all, let's just, if we could, I move that we put this to a vote, whether the board would like to change the agenda.
So let's get the exact item numbers and everything of what we're changing. So.
Mr. President?
Oh, yeah.
For clarification, you're putting the question of whether or not to move that whole item forward. That would be, you're wanting to pull out just one issue on that item?
Okay, so let's just go over. Right now, we have the first reading of board policies. And so at that time, what we would do is we would ask if anybody has one of those items that they would like to review with us. Because we're not going to make a decision tonight. It'll be at the next meeting. So is what you're saying is if somebody would want to come up now and pull one of those items?
No, I'm not expressing my opinion one way or another. I'm looking for clarification on what we're being asked to consider and vote on.
Okay, what I'm asking is for the board to decide as a group, not for myself, but to decide to vote on whether we want to put that forward on the agenda. Move it forward. Move that one item forward on the agenda so that per this individual's request.
Okay, so that's item 10.3.1, which is the first reading of the revised update of board policies. So if we bring that item up, we're bringing up all the board policies at this time because it's not listed for just one separate item. So I'll entertain whatever the board wants to do, but
okay, let's just make it official. I move that we bring that item forward, item 10.3.1.
Okay, so a motion's been made on the floor.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay,
No
apparently
second.
I don't have a second, so the
Sorry.
remainder of the board does not agree, and it will have to remain at the bottom of the calendar.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Kaiser.
So I would suggest an alternative context. If we would allow them to use the procedure of simply speaking to an item that's not here, then you have a really limited time framework, and that might allow us to do this effectively. But I agree because there's a great many items in the board policy. So I would make a motion to allow them to just give public comments on that, and that would be the same time limit, and it would be 3 minutes, 3 for, 3 against, and that would be the end of it.
So are we doing this then under items from the floor?
That's what I would suggest.
But we're doing an item from the floor that is on the agenda.
That's true. So I don't.
And that's okay?
Okay.
Okay, so you have a motion on the floor to bring just that item up at this point?
Yes, for public comment.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion's been made in second, and now we could have some discussion on this. So the way this would look, go ahead.
Following that rule, what we're asking for is public comment without comment from the board.
Right.
If that's clear.
Correct.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And are we going to take, three people can come up at that point?
Right.
With 3 minutes, and that's 3 people that are like either for or against. So we'll do that. Let's do it because we're already running behind, and this is a long meeting.
Okay,
So-
and just to clarify.
Oh, I have to call for the motion.
Oh, just to clarify what the procedure would be, though, too, is, I'm not sure if everybody knows that. Under those circumstances, we are not allowed to comment. We are not allowed to ask questions. We are not allowed to interact if it's an item from the floor. We will just be listening. But the thing is, too, that we're just going to be listening anyhow for all of these because these items are not going to be voted on tonight. This is just an initial reading of these items. So just so everybody knows, any comments that are made are just going to be listened to.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Roll call. Lustal, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Okay, motion passes. Let's go. Mr. Hanlon will be keeping time. He's over here with the blue shirt, blue tie. So he'll hold up a red envelope. There it is right there. That's when the 3 minutes have gone. And introduce yourself, and off you go.
Okay, thank you so much. the agenda. And thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Kristen Schroeder, and I was personally affected by the Chico Unified Protocol regarding regarding Form 10s this spring when I tried to get my son into my school site for the 2018-2019 school year. With the current protocol, he ended up 12th on the list with no possibility of getting in. I understand that some of the protocol cannot be changed because it's ed code, and I agree with that 100%. However, I believe that the board-adopted policy on this issue should change. Under the current board-adopted policy, Form 10 siblings are entered into a lottery, then followed by teachers' children. I believe that this order should change and be reversed to teachers' children being entered into a lottery first, then followed by Form 10 siblings. I'd like to share with you why I think this change should be made. Employees of Chico Unified not only educate, teach life skills, nurture, and care for their students on a daily basis, but a great majority of us are also doing things outside of the classroom to help teachers and administrators in this district. These things include being teacher in charge and taking time away from our own classes, leading new teacher trainings and district-wide staff development days, leading after-school trainings based on their specific abilities and talents, leading school-based clubs such as leadership and yearbook, participating in the triad program, coaching girls on the run. The list goes on of the extras that we do. These are all things that take extra time and may not be possible for teachers to continue if an extra drop-off or pickup is part of our daily schedule because our children are not at the school where we teach. Personally, I have led and participated in many of these additional commitments, and I really enjoy sharing my knowledge and time with other teachers. Sadly, with 2 drop-offs and myself at a 3rd school next year, I will no longer have time to participate in these things. Teachers in this district work hard for their students, and they also share their talents with other teachers and administrators in this district. Based on all that we do, we should have priority when it comes to getting our children into the school where we teach. We have many people here tonight and several speakers with different perspectives on this issue that all agree this protocol needs to change. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gary Molitor, and I'm advocating the same issue, that district teachers be included in line before Form 10 families to facilitate transportation issues. I'm the proud grandparent of 3 grandchildren, ages 16, 7, and 5, approximately. And my son-in-law is a teacher at Marigold, and my daughter is a first-year nursing student at Butte College. Our 16-year-old goes to PV High School, our 7-year-old goes to Marigold, where his father teaches, and our 5-year-old will start at Emma Wilson in the fall. So we've got 6 family members going to 4 different schools in the district, which, as you can imagine, creates transportation issues. My concern is our 5-year-old granddaughter, who will start at Emma Wilson in the fall, and quite often I'm the only one that can take her to and from school. I was doing that when she was in kindergarten or preschool. But my schedule's very busy, and I'm not always able to take her and pick her up from school. I take care of my 90-year-old mother, and yesterday I spent most of the afternoon with her at the doctor, which totally wore me out. I had to go home and take a nap afterwards. And 2 weeks ago, I was in the hospital battling a chronic health condition that keeps me in bed several days a week. And all I feel like doing is resting. So I'm not always able to take the kids around. We thought about Uber, or public transportation, but I have trouble imagining our 5-year-old granddaughter at a bus stop with a bunch of strangers waiting for a half an hour, getting on the correct bus, getting off the bus at the right time, and then walk the rest of the way to school. And I do not want to wonder every day if she made it safely to school. Seems this could easily be solved if our little 5-year-old could go to the same school where her father teaches and her brother attends. But as it is now, she's among the long list of Form 10 students and may not be chosen to attend Marigold this year with her brother and her father. So teachers are in a unique position, and I hope you will relieve the pressure on them of transportation issues that arise when students and a teacher's family must attend a school different than where they teach. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Sally McMillan. I have 2 children in Chico Unified and another one that will be there soon. I am a Form 10 parent. As a Form 10 parent, I actually feel very strongly that the teachers' children should be put in a lottery before my children, even at the expense of my daughter not being able to go to the same school as my other daughters. And the reason why I feel so strongly is because I know that if a teacher is able to have their student in their class or in their school with them, that makes the whole atmosphere better. I feel like this policy has put added strain between the teachers and the administration. And I'm sad to see a teacher that was my daughter's teacher who was so fantastic going through this issue. And I have no doubt in my mind that everyone that's here feels as I do, which is that we don't pay our teachers what they're worth. And I also know that we don't have the money to do that. This is a cost-free way. This doesn't affect the budget at all. And I'm a business owner. I think about that kind of stuff all the time. In fact, I tell my employees that I wish I could pay them what they're worth. And I can't always do that. But I feel like this is a way that we can, maybe saying adding value to their life is a little bit too strong, but maybe not. I really feel like this is a way that we can show them that we honor them. We can show them that even though we don't always make things as easy for them, this feels like we're making it really hard. And I can only assume that this policy was put into place to be fair. And I can imagine there being someone saying, I don't get to bring my kids to my work or something like that. And I can understand that, except for that when you just read it, if somebody just sits down and reads it, it feels like in order to be fair, we have to eliminate our logic, because it seems so logical to me that students would go to the same school that their parents teach at. And I feel like that would make the whole school district better. And that's where my kids go to school. This is the town I live in. So thank you for your time. And I did not say anything that was on here, but if you want this, so I can leave. Do you want these notes? Or you guys can.
Eileen.
Speaker?
Sally.
I would like to have your notes that you didn't say.
And we are also open to emails. So you're number 4 now.
And I believe the last one, if you would just give me a couple minutes of your time.
Well, are you going to be here later?
I was hoping to go with my family.
What are we going to do, board? Okay, go.
My name is Mark Friedman, and I'd like to thank everyone who is here tonight because they believe the current Form 10 policy should be adjusted. I'd also like to thank the board members for listening to several of us share how the current Form 10 policy is affecting our families, as well as our ability to give 100% to our classroom students. Before we leave you tonight, I'd like to offer some final thoughts on Form 10s. When Chico families choose to Form 10 their students to schools of their choice, the decision is not often made out of necessity. Rather, it's made because parents prefer one school over another. Parents are saying that they are able to provide transportation for their children to the school of their choice. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Marigold, and when I filled out the Form 10 paperwork for my children, it had nothing to do with my neighborhood school. Not a thing. Simply put, I requested the Form 10 out of necessity because I can't be 3 different places at 3 different times in the morning in order to get my children safely to school and on time. My request had everything to do with the convenience it would provide for my family, the extra time it would allow me to perform my job exceptionally, and the joy it would bring me and my children. Part of the problem Marigold School in particular is facing is that construction combined with unrestricted housing development has led to more students and fewer classrooms to house them. Currently, Marigold School has no chance. There's no chance that all the Form 10 siblings are going to make it into that school. It's just not going to happen. However, if the board chooses to alter its current Form 10 policy, it could honor the teacher requests for their children, which is a very small number, and then begin to honor Form 10 siblings via the lottery system in place. I entered this whole conversation 2 years ago when my son entered kindergarten. I quickly became aware of this problem and what I was up against. One of the things I was told repeatedly by other staff members in administration was a story about a past administrator who experienced this same problem. He tried to Form 10 his child to his work site, and the request was not granted. I heard this time and time again, and the underlying message was that, Mark, this guy was an administrator. He couldn't do it. He was a principal. We didn't do it for him. You're just a teacher, Mark. We couldn't do it for him. Good luck, good luck. And I left that going, hey, my children are special. The teachers in this district are special. I don't know why we're not able to be in school together. I don't see how any teacher, administrator, board member, parent, or grandparent could hear this story and commend Chico for equity or fairness. It's quite frankly a little embarrassing that the families of Chico Unified teachers and administrators included are not valued enough to place them together. And it's not that I feel we deserve this extra perk. We earn this extra perk. In closing, I do not believe that the issue here is going away anytime soon. With the young wave of teachers making important decisions about where they will choose to work, this Form 10 issue may affect and may factor into many of their decisions moving forward. Chico Unified needs talented, highly qualified teachers to join us, and protecting their families may help recruit them.
Okay, your time is hit.
I urge you to do the right thing for Chico teachers and their families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to now return back to our agenda, and we are on the consent calendar. Also, for the people that are leaving, the meeting is being streamed live. If you go to the Chico Unified School District webpage, under the school board, they'll say live stream. You could click on it and watch it live, or you can watch it later at any time that you want to.
And Gary, if I can add in there, this board is very good about receiving email, reading email, and taking that into consideration. So if you do have to leave, please feel free to email me, email the board, and I'll make sure that they get that communication.
Okay, I'm sorry, we are at negotiation update. Mr. Hanlon?
We have nothing to report as we are not negotiating currently, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so now we'll move to the consent agenda. Any items to, what do you have?
Yes, I want to pull the approval of the Butte College calendar.
What item number is that?
9.2.6.
Any others?
Ed Services would like to pull 9.2.5 and bring it back to you at our next meeting on June 27th.
Any others? Okay, let's move on with a motion.
I move to approve the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made in second. Do we have any discussion on these items? Any from the audience? I see none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and motion passes. Now we'll move to 9.2.6.
Mr. Chairman? I believe that our correct action on 9.2.5 is to table to a time certain rather than just not approve. So we're tabling it to...
I believe you're correct. So I will pull that and call for it to be tabled. Do we need to vote for that?
That I'm not sure.
We're good. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Whatever we got it means. So. Okay, so we're back to 9.2.6.
So what I found odd about this is an outstanding program. It's College Connection. Are you the elevated teacher of?
This is Jackie Windsor. She's. Oh, Eileen Eisner. Sorry. Sorry, Jackie's our work experience. I brought her last time. Eileen is our College Connection teacher.
So the letters of praise and enthusiasm and high regard for this were quite impressive. Why were they all confidential?
Were they marked as confidential?
They were.
I don't know the reason
I don't know.
for that.
She just shared them so we could share them with you. So
Well, that's the point. This is, I was explaining it to my colleagues from the global educational thing, that this is a very, very successful program. It's unusual. Students have to apply to it. And we hit all these very strong praise letters. I think you were mentioned in person. So what's the point?
I'm sorry, Kathy, I'm confused. What was confidential?
All the letters that came from College Connection were put in the confidential file.
They show up on mine. I'm not sure.
Well, they were in the confidential file on mine.
So Elaine just gave them to us to share to the board, and I gave them to Ms. Smith to share to the board. That's all we did. We didn't make them confidential or anything.
So well, that's what I mean. It was weird that they were in confidential envelope.
So it went to board members only because it had student names and student identification in it. So without express permission from those students and families, we can't publish them, but we did make sure that the board was aware of them. And with permission from those students, express permission, we could then publish their names.
So in the past, my point is, we've had a few of these students come and publicly state how extremely valuable this program has been to them. And it's, in my opinion, it's part of our ability to advertise something that's extremely exceptional. So I would simply encourage you guys not to hide your light under a bushel.
Thank you. And,
Good advice.
We won't do that. And we will be bringing students with us to talk to you about the program next year.
All right. With that, I move the item.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this item? I see none. Any from the audience? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Consent agenda is over. Yes, ma'am.
Can we who moved and who seconded? I'm sorry, we could not hear.
Kathy?
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, we're now moving over to 10.1.1. LCAP.
Good evening. Tonight Ed Services is pleased to present Chico Unified School District's 2018-19 LCAP Plan, Local Control Accountability Plan. As you know, the planning began in schools, on school sites, with school teams looking at their site LCAP needs. Tonight we're reading, then 2 community meetings were taking place actually in this room. March 27th and April 17th, where we had community input on our plan. It was also posted on our web page, and we were open for email comments. Tonight is the first reading, with the second approval meeting taking place June 27th at 5 o'clock at the district office conference room. The draft is on our web page, and we invite comments from the public. After the Ed Services presentation this evening, as required by State California Education Code, the board will need to open a public hearing to receive input on the LCAP plan. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ed Services Group with Tim.
Tim, before you start your presentation, Erica, is there one more copy of the LCAP? Mine's in my car right outside. Thank you.
Good evening. And before I get started, I want to make sure that we can see the slides from my computer up on the monitors.
Haley, she's working on it. There it goes.
She's good. She's on it. All right. Thank you. All right. So like Joanne said.
Okay, this is my data whiz guy, right? The one I told you that can, and all the information shows up. That's him.
So we're happy to bring you the LCAP plan for public hearing tonight after, like Joanne said, the result of a lot of community parent input, a lot of staff input, a lot of time looking at where we stand on certain metrics related to LCAP. Is what we're doing working? What do we need to change? What do we need to improve on? So I'm going to take you through an abbreviated version. My slides tonight are much abbreviated for the benefit of the audience and time. A 115-page document with lots of budget numbers and statistics is a little bit hard to get through, so we're going to give you an abbreviated version. And first of all, the LCAP is organized around 5 goals that address 5 areas. Okay, so we're going to go one by one through each goal, talk to you about the budget proposals, where we stand as far as how we're doing meeting those goals. And so just to read through the Chico USD goals first, goal number 1 is all around quality teachers, materials, and facilities. Okay. Goal number 2 is to fully align curriculum and assessments with the California State Content Standards. Goal number 3, to support high levels of student achievement in a broad range of courses. Goal number 4, provide opportunities for parent involvement and input. And number 5, to improve school climate. Okay, so starting off with goal number 1, this is quality teachers, materials, and facilities. This is largely around our Williams Act legal obligations to provide facilities that are safe and in good repair, instructional materials, and properly credentialed teachers. Years ago, Chico Unified, really at the beginning of the LCAP process, chose to add in to this goal the addition of student access to technology. And what the route we chose to go was student Chromebooks. And this is really a big area of success for us, over not just this year. This year's we're kind of hitting the crest of a wave here, but there's been a lot of work over the years by John Vincent and his team, with support from Ed Services, the board, and senior cabinet. It's been, everybody's been involved in getting this up and running. So this year, I'm happy to report that we are 1-to-1 at the junior highs for both home and school usage of district Chromebooks. Huge undertaking, again, by John and his team. And the reports are that it's going very well. So well, in fact, that we will be looking to roll out the same plan for high school next year. Okay. I would like to add that while our high schools and elementaries are not 1-to-1, kids aren't taking Chromebooks home, we are 1-to-1 in the district. Okay, and when we look at the larger view of including PCs and tablets, we're well above 1-to-1. So the funding that we are looking at for next year largely goes into assisting our students and staff to use those machines effectively. It doesn't do us any good to throw technology at an issue with no training for anybody. So you can see instructional technology aids, software, librarians and library media assistants, and the technology hardware number that you see at the bottom is pretty much encompasses upkeep of our current Chromebook fleet and our other machines, as well as the back-end systems that we use to manage our Chromebooks as far as checking them in and out, security, web filtering, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions on goal 1?
I was just curious for the logistics of the check-in, check-out of all the hardware. Is that done by the librarians and the library media assistants?
It's done by librarians and library media assistants, and we have IT staff available.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of all hands on deck.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to goal 2, and this is to fully align curriculum and assessments with our California content standards. Around aligning assessments to the California content standards, we appreciated the opportunity to bring our secondary DLC group before the board in May to report on our progress. So I'm not going to go into that too deeply, but greatest progress we saw on goal 2 this year was the creation of ninth grade common assessments to expand our already very robust TK through 8. We can't say enough good things about having DLC input and being an integral part of the process. It is just a tremendous benefit for the district. And when we say common assessments, what we're really talking about is allowing teachers and students to check in on where they are, where their needs are, where their strengths are, prior to that big state test, which we'll talk about in Goal 3. So this really supports student achievement, including the broad range of courses that we talk about in Goal 3 as well. We are looking to move this up to grade 10. And in fact, we have coming on down the line a 9th through 12th grade English language arts screening assessment that was created by DLC that will be put in place next year. Also, a little surprise for us this year was Spanish got on board. Okay, so largely Goal 2 is centered around District Leadership Council. And I don't mean to say that common assessment is the only thing that our DLC does. In fact, they inform our staff development decisions as well and consult with us on just pretty much about everything. But this is the budgeted dollars for Goal 2, proposed dollars. Okay, Goal 3, supporting high levels of student achievement in a broad range of courses. So this goal is essentially us indicating we need our students to improve on our state standardized tests, and we would like to see more students accessing CTE, becoming CTE completers, finishing their UC-CSU requirements in high school, so their A to G requirements, taking AP tests. The state looks at all of these now as part of our accountability system, and we value them a lot as well. So that is kind of the focus of Goal 3. So greatest progress would be our the first thing that we see as good progress for the year that we're all really proud of is our grade 3 through 8 English language arts. We have data from this current school year telling us that that we are likely to raise test scores significantly in the eyes of the state on our grades 3 through 8 ELA. We see that as a major success. We had one site improve their distance to level 3. I'm not going to get into the weeds on, but we've talked to all of the board about that a little bit, by 24 points. And that's really, really significant. That site also had 12% growth in their students at meeting standard or above. So seen some real good growth with that whole group, and in particular that site. We see a little more modest growth in grades 3 through 8 ELA, but in the eyes of the state, if our projections stand, we'll be in the increased category on the state dashboard. Another piece that, as somebody that looks at district data a lot, and I've said it many times, any way you slice and dice our English learner progress, whether it's grad rate, standardized test achievement, our English learners are very well served in Chico Unified. In fact, the English learner progress indicator that came out fall 2017, we were green. So that's one level below the highest level that we can get. So that's always a celebration for us.
So Tim, since we are doing so extremely well in that, and of course it's what many countries do as their second language is English, do we have some kind of pinpointed rocket boost that helps us do this, or Are we laying praise in one particular area or what?
Years ago, and I'm not sure quite how many, I want to say 7 years ago, we started implementing a program called Language Star, working with a group of consultants that came in, and we were able to fund coaching, both by our staff and the consultant staff. And that really changed the game for us as far as English language development and instruction.
Okay.
And that's continued on. It's still going very strong. We currently have 2 coaches, not quite 2 full-time people. And we really like that model. And in fact, one of the things we've talked about is trying to replicate a similar model to address elementary school reading.
And so for math, we limp?
For math, we really, I would say, last year, over the last couple years, the addition of the iReady assessments has given teachers information on where their students stand throughout the year, and also gives students access to instruction at their level. So that's been a big change, and I'm looking at Ed Services if there's anything else to add about math. That's been a big change for us.
Okay. Thanks.
Greatest needs. We need to talk about our needs as well as our successes. We are projecting that our grade 11 English and Math Smarter Balance scores will take a dip this year. These are projections, but that we're confident that they will show decline when the final numbers come out. And we're going to talk about, my next slide is really going to talk about what we're doing about that. So to address, I skipped a slide there, but just wanted to address those, in particular the language arts scores. We do have additional sections of expository reading and writing courses coming into Chico High. And that will be for 11th grade. Okay, so we're expanding our ERWC access for students. Also, and I mentioned this earlier kind of in passing, but grades 9 through 12 per DLC guidance will begin administering a screener at the beginning of the school year across the board that will screen kids for performance on a very carefully selected group of standards so that teachers can start off the year knowing where their students are at, and teachers will have the option to reassess throughout the year to measure growth if they like.
Hold on, Tim. So are you still talking about 11th graders, or?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so when you say teachers, are you talking about math teachers and English teachers, or what teachers are you?
We're talking about. I was going to say CTE teachers. No, the English teachers. Yeah. Also, to address this, and really this is just a good practice regardless of where we are with test scores, we'll be asking all of our teachers, trying to be as minimally invasive as we, and not layer on too much more into the classroom assessment piece, but we'll be asking our teachers grades 3 through 5, all of our elementary classroom teachers, our English and math in junior high and high school. We'll be asking them to administer an interim smarter balanced assessment for a few different reasons. Number one, to give the teachers a closer up view of what their students will be faced with come testing season in the spring. Number two, to allow students to become familiar with the testing interface. And then 3, little back-end stuff, it allows us to kind of clean up our administration systems at the district office, make sure we're all ready to go months ahead of time. High school math began work this year on switching their approach to classroom assessment to more assessments given more often and much shorter. So they would take like 15 minutes, 5-item quizzes, a quick read on how well students are grasping concepts. That's minimally invasive. That gives teachers and students quick feedback on where to go next. So we'll be expanding that to 10th grade as well as Math C. I already talked about the Smarter Balance interims, but this is a area that's you can see in our goals for the upcoming years in the body of the actual LCAP that we feel should always be under constant revision and refinement. Each year we should be getting better and better, more precise with our assessment.
This interim test then, interim assessment, where does it come from?
It's delivered through the same state system that the real Smarter Balance, the summative Smarter Balance is.
So it's very close to the type of test that they're going to get.
Exactly what the kids, item types that the kids will see. And in fact, next week we have a board agenda item to get the board into that system and then demonstrate for the public. Yeah, we won't publish any scores or anything. To increase student achievement is basically what we're saying with this goal. There's a lot that goes into that, including counselors might be one thing that maybe doesn't fit at first glance, but that's really, we need our students aware, we need our students guided towards CTE pathways, A to G completion, et cetera, at the high schools, and then setting themselves up for the course progression that they would like in high school and junior high. So I'll let you take a look at those numbers for a moment and if you have any questions.
When we just see the numbers, what's the counselor ratio per student?
400 to 1.
I know.
That's with this addition?
How many minutes a student?
Minus.
Oh, you're over.
Any further questions?
What's elementary RTL?
That's RTI.
RTI.
And
I know RTI. Got it.
You want to talk about the RTI?
So we pay, LCAP covers about 40% of the RSP teachers, resource teachers that are at the elementary schools because they also work with non-special ed students on interventions to help them. Most schools have learning centers and the RSP teachers either help run or do run the learning centers. So we help support that so they can keep those teachers full because some of them wouldn't be full as with only seeing the resource teachers.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on to Goal 4. Goal 4 is around providing opportunities for parent involvement and input. For Goal 4, we were pleased to see this first paragraph that you see here, or first couple sentences that you see here. For the 17-18 year, finishing out the 17-18 year, we have 98.3% of our secondary students that have at least one parent with Aries Parent Portal access. So what Aries Parent Portal access allows parents to do is check on grades, check on missing assignments. I know we talk a lot about it in Ed Services, those of us that have had kids go through Aries Parent Portal. It's often, hey, before the weekend, we're gonna check this. It allows parents to stay informed. And so it's hard to budge above 98.3, but we're always after more. seen a particular increase in this at our alternative ed campus, which is great to see. And we're even seeing it trickle down to the elementary schools, with a couple of our elementary schools really taking it on. So we're happy to see that. We're also happy to see our targeted case managers continue to make more and more parent contacts each year.
Tim, thank you. On the issue of Aries, several real kudos. I've noticed over the last couple of years that the teachers are doing a really good job of staying very current on what's posted on the Aries portal. One of my issues is the access to the assignments in the classroom. Some teachers have a pretty significant posting of what the work that's been assigned, but is there a way to tell the parent how to get resources to help the student with their homework? Not that the parent could do it necessarily, but the parent could maybe point the kid to the fact that go there for help when you get stuck on, what czar did whatever.
Right.
That's a tough thing to do in areas. What more and more teachers are doing, though, is you can tell, especially if they can get it on their PDFs and stuff like that, they're actually putting the assignment hook on the areas on the parent portal for the parent to be able to click on it to see what it is, or print it out, or tell their child to print it out if they missed it. That's one of the biggest changes we've done. So if they can get to that, which is we're getting more and more teachers to do that. But right now, I'm not seeing where we could, if you're asking if they're going to put a date when it's due, is that I'm trying to...
I've seen due dates. I guess I haven't figured out how to download the PDFs and the assignments.
And it's not everybody. It's just a lot of our math and English do that. What we can do, resources would probably be pushed out through, I would imagine, if we're saying that's a need of ours, our targeted case managers should be helping out parents more and more about getting the information they need from their teachers. We can obviously do that with our targeted case managers. The counselors, especially our elementary counselors, can do a lot more of that too on that. Our high school ones are pretty busy, but that's where our targeted case managers can come in and help with a parent when they're needing more help with getting the resources.
And also just direct communication with the teacher, reaching out and asking the teacher, what are some resources I can utilize to help my students? And I know that you've done that.
The email's right there on Parent Portal straight to the teacher also.
That's another thing I am having a problem figuring out, is how to do the email directly from the Aries portal. I always have to switch over to the Chico Unified database to get. So again, it's probably operator error, but that is one of the difficulties.
We also have tech people on each campus that can help with that too, on the campuses, that they have a 4-hour person that can help with that.
And really, the Aries Parent Portal would probably not be the place for that in the short term, at least. It would be more leveraging Google Classroom or other systems like that. And that's a good question, because it brings up the importance of a couple things that we talked about earlier, is student access to technology. It allows teachers to leverage tools like Google Classroom. And then the tech aids that we have at sites, and getting our teachers more and more familiar with the tools at hand. And that's pretty much in a nutshell why, big part of the reason why we're doing all this. So our targeted case managers have been around Chico Unified for a number of years, and over the past few years, we've filled it out where all the sites have a targeted case manager, and we've seen their contacts move up each year, which is great to see. And we hope to continue that moving into 18-19 as well. Around the school also, we have asked all of our elementary and secondary schools to utilize a self-evaluation tool that allows them to reflect on their campus and how their campus runs, which would include parent communication. It includes academics and kind of the whole school environment, but there really is a focus on parent communication, ways that we're getting messages out to parents. And that tool that they're using is the MTSS FIA. So MTSS is multi-tier system of supports. And FIA, my brain is going blank right now. It's assessment, fidelity assessment. But the feedback has been good from our staffs. And I say staff because it's not just a principal doing this. It's done with a group of staff members, teachers included. And we'll continue that into next year. You know, one of the challenges about evaluating this goal is the data that's available. So we are looking to be more consistent with our documentation of parent contacts, of guidance, what the guidance specialist contacts look like with both parents and students, and our counselors as well. So we hope to be before you next year with better numbers on how that looks, and it would really be a baseline for the other groups of staff. But it's important for us to know that what we're spending our district funds on, how far that's going for us. Like I said before, we want to increase our percentage of parents using the portal, and we're exploring upgrading our communication system to help address things like Eileen just brought up with parent-teacher communication, staff member to staff member communication, communication within the whole school community.
I'm not playing fair because I'm stepping out. When in a later item we talked about a particular use of a phone system that was based, basically in the computer, in the internet, will that make it easier for parents to interact with the teachers, or does that? I mean, I know there was talk about a school site, but is that going to help parents reach teachers?
So the new phone system is, it does a good job inside our district to be able to communicate between different people who have accounts inside. But to do more exploration to see exactly what we can do to give us better access to parents through that system. It will have a regular, phone numbers that people can call, but there might be easier ways as well built into that. We're also looking at a separate system that would actually address the issue we have right now with communication with parents.
Okay.
That would be layered on top of that.
Okay, good. Thank you. I cheated, but.
Yeah, we're also making a major effort to ensure that we have good contact info for our parents, which is easier said than done, so that to facilitate that communication, both teacher to parent and for emergency situations. So largely for this goal, we're talking about our targeted case managers who interact with, LCAP is largely focused on how is Chico Unified serving its unduplicated students, its socially economically disadvantaged students. So these language learners, et cetera, the targeted case managers are kind of on the front lines with those communications, providing translation, providing access to community resources, school resources, and facilitating, teacher to parent or student communications as well.
The targeted case managers, Mr. Karras, or is it the same as last year, or are there increases in?
Oh, the funding.
The people. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the increases that we see here, for many of these cases, are due to the raises. Okay, so improving school climate, a very broad goal, encompasses discipline, attendance, et cetera. So we are, like I said, I'm trying to whittle this down before I give you the nitty gritty here, but we did see the district attendance rate stay steady this year at 95.6, which is great when you look around the state. We hit our goal exactly, which is 95.6. And that's largely, again, through the efforts of targeted case managers, our attendance clerks, staff that is tasked with keeping that up and getting kids to school. We're projecting that our final chronic absenteeism rate will dip by 0.5% when those numbers come out from the state in the fall. And again, those same groups of people are making the phone calls and making sure kids get to school all the time. So we're happy with both of those numbers. We're moving in the right direction.
I have a question there. Kevin, maybe, so that 0.5%, that's 0.5%, right?
Yep.
Is there a dollar amount on that we've changed? I mean, rough ballpark? I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, we're going to present it earlier. They may have a little more updated data. When we put the budget together, we were at 95.3.
Okay.
And we were showing a decrease of about $160,000 from what we had expected to receive with a 95.5. Okay. So my guess is that they have some annual attendance that has come in and been calculated, so that pushed us to 95.6. So that's going to be that much better. But I guess an example from 95.3 to 95.6 is almost $200,000.
And chronic absenteeism refers to students that are absent for 10% or more of the school year. One of the needs that we've identified in this area is we've seen our projections for suspension rate indicate almost a 0.9% growth in our suspension rate, which we want to go down, obviously. Some things that we noticed this in, I think it was October or November, actually. We saw our suspensions going up. There was a lot of talk about that. One of the actions that we took halfway through the year for elementary was to reinstitute the reset program for students that may otherwise be suspended. We would prefer to keep them on Chico Unified sites for not just for our suspension rate, but we feel we could serve them better rather than sending them home. So we were happy to be able to put that back in place. We did see a rise across the board in our secondary suspensions as well. And so that's been, something that we've been discussing a lot as far as reasons behind that. What can we do about it? So that's still a kind of a work in progress right now. So for next year, we'd like to continue the reset program for the elementary schools, starting the year off. So,
Sorry for being slow on the uptake, but when you said you were looking at the secondary suspension rates, what body within administration or who looks at that? Is it the secondary principals or?
It's all of ed services and all the secondary staff and junior high.
Okay, so it's APs, principals, and.
And it trickles down to the counselors, and what are we doing to support the students that are leading to these?
Okay.
Then it gets down to the target case managers. How can we help to support the parents?
Okay.
And really,
Thanks.
we see, we're talking secondary suspension rates right now, but really, in the LCAP, we have going all the way down to K, social, emotional, behavior interventions in place to try to address issues as early as we can and continually throughout their time here. A recent development for us moving forward into next year is the tobacco enforcement grant will allow us to have school resource officers at both comprehensive high schools and the alt-ed campus. They will also be helping out at the junior highs as needed. And so we're really happy with our partnership with Chico PD on that. And as you know, Oak Bridge is opening up in August. It's very far along. So with that Oak Bridge campus, we're hoping to be able to meet needs of students that have all along the spectrum of needs. Students that want to work, students that want to take some classes at Oak Bridge and take some at a comprehensive high school, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another way, not written into the LCAP, funded by the LCAP, but to address the school climate.
How do we measure, or how do we intend to measure attendance in terms of the online courses?
So it's an independent study program, so it follows the Ed Code for Independent Study. So attendance is based on the amount of completed work that the students complete. And we'll be measuring that every week with the mandatory meeting for each student.
So when we saw the Nord School's proposal, you know, it was pretty rigorous in terms of what state mandates, and are they mandating that same amount of contact at the high school level?
Yeah, so it's a little bit unfortunate because with the online system, there's a lot easier ways to do it, but the Ed Code hasn't kept up with the technology. So we still have to kind of maintain records the old-fashioned paper way. So we have to print stuff even though we could just pull it up online. So hopefully at some point with all these online schools springing up that the Ed Code will catch up, and so that we can lower the level of paperwork that's necessary for the teachers in these programs.
Okay.
Okay, so goal 5, like I mentioned earlier, it's a pretty wide goal. We see school climate as a wide area with lots of needs, lots of places for us to focus. So I'll give you a moment to look at those numbers.
Mr. Karras, the number there, the $1 million for campus supervisors, is that just for secondary?
That would
all
that
through the
is
district?
K-12.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So in closing, our goals essentially remain unchanged from the previous year. We have changed some of the ways that we will, as you know, the way we will measure our progress towards those goals based on the new state accountability system. But the goals themselves remain unchanged. Okay. We can open a public hearing if we don't have any more questions.
Do you have any questions? Okay, I will now open our public hearing on the LCAP accountability plan. It's open. Do we have any input from the public on our LCAP plan that I'm sure you've all gone through on our webpage of, how thick is it?
116 pages.
Yeah.
I would just like to update you on, we did send the plan to the county after we met with you guys. It had some minor changes, and we got an email back. She went through the whole thing, and she found a couple typos and had a couple ideas of a few things. So there's a couple minor changes in there that don't affect all the data, but she also wrote a really nice thing at the bottom commending that Ed Services team, that it's one of the best, well, she said it's the best LCAP in the county, and she said she wishes that more people up and down the state could look at our LCAP plan. So we were like happy after all these hours, and
Good.
Tim and the whole team.
Yep.
It was great.
Yep.
Well done, yeah, thank you.
I
Go ahead.
You want to close the public hearing so I can?
I now will close the public hearing.
Thank you. Yes, I do have, I know that we've mentioned making changes when we saw a need to make changes. When we approve this, what do you have to do then to make a change? Do you bring it back to us, or do you do an internal assessment? You know, if you see something going wonky at the end of the first semester and you want to...
Well, a good example of that would be our suspensions. Last year, like I said, we noticed really early in the year that we were having an increase, and we got addressed that right away with reset being re-implemented into elementary. So the LCAP itself, that won't change mid-year. We are looking at, you know, all these metrics, anything that we can throughout the year, and take actions as necessary.
Follow up on that. Is it because there are dollars attached to each one of the components in the LCAP? Is that what kind of freezes you or us with changes, that you can make changes, but you have to be within the constraints of what's been budgeted? Is that kind of the
that should be the goal. I will say that when you look through the plan, there's what we plan to do, and then
right.
when we do the annual update, there's what we actually did.
Yep.
So with the board's blessing, we can go throughout the year, and we can make changes, but we don't have to go back and reapprove the whole LCAP plan. So we can make little changes. We just have to document those when we do our annual update this time next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Come back next week.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Tim, since I know this is your favorite topic, when we get our dashboard scores, how soon will the lights at the intersection start changing? Yellow, red, green, yellow, red, green, yellow.
We're doing we will get our first look at the dashboard numbers in early November. They'll be made public end of November. And part of what you see here tonight is us taking our best stab at predicting what those numbers are going to be, so we don't have to wait till November. You know, like Smarter Balance, for example, we wanted that data in the hands of the sites as soon as we possibly could. So they got it a few weeks ago, so they could start adjusting. And I've had conversations with site principals. They're already looking, they're already digging through it. We don't want to be tremendously surprised by the dashboard. It's a little bit late for us to make big changes, and really it would be January by the time we got through that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are now going to move. Business. Thank you.
It says action, but...
It's not action, yeah. So, Kevin, 10.2.1, do you want to explain to the board how we are being discussion only right now?
I'll go ahead and take that.
Okay.
There's been a lot of discussion in our Chico community looking at statistics, changing safety within our community statistics, crime statistics, and the school district has been no different. We've been looking at changes within our community as well. So we began some discussions with the Chico Police Department about reinstating school resource officers, and it was something that we both felt was a priority. It was something that the Chico Police Department and the city of Chico wished to do, was to see resource officers back in the schools. They see tremendous benefits not only on the school campuses, but also in the community and the connections that they make. And it's certainly something that we would like to see reinstated, because we do believe that it increases the safety of our campuses, both from a deterrent and an intervention method. So we began going down this path and actually came up with a proposal where we would use some dollars from our budget to partially fund a school resource officer that would only be there when students were there. And actually, I think we were looking at 190 days, so we would have some staff training time. And the Chico Police Department also, again, felt very strongly about this, so they put some money out of their budget. In the meantime, a grant opportunity became available, and we have a wizard of a grant writer in Liz Metzger, and she once again did her wonders, worked wonders with her, looking at what the needs are within the district and what the requirements of the grant. So at this point, we have been notified that we have received the grant. The grant is designed to work over 2 years, and over that 2-year period, provide 5 resource officers for our district. There would be 1 at each comprehensive high school, 1 at our alternative ed campus, 1 that would be shared between the junior highs, and 1 shared between the elementaries. But it's a phase-in, so we're looking at 3 for the first year and then 2 in the following year. So with that new proposal coming forward, when we put this on the agenda, we did not know whether or not we had received the grant. So we came forward with our initial plan. What our fallback would be is that each entity would contribute money so that we could have at least 2 resource officers. Since we now have the grant, we would like to pull this item, and we will come back in July. We just found out that we got the grant just last week, so we really haven't even had a chance to meet with the police department to discuss what this would look like. So we will do that, and on July 18th, we will come back with a more detailed plan that will not hit either entity's general fund, but will be grant funded. Kathy.
I want Liz to stand up.
Woo!
When even the police chief tells me I got a kick-ass grant writer.
Okay.
We're going to pull it,
Or table it to the July meeting, I think you said?
Yeah, the
Not
July
the 27th.
July
Okay,
18th,
July
correct.
18th. But because this was an item on the agenda, if there's anybody from the audience that would like to speak on this, come on up.
Hi, my name is Patty McCampbell-Lucio. Good evening, distinguished board. This subject is very near and dear to my heart because my husband and I both attended Chico High. We graduated from there in Chico State. I'm a paraprofessional instructional aide at Chico Junior High School with students who have special needs. I am here tonight to support Chico Police Department and Chico Unified for bringing back the school resource officers who are desperately needed. As a parent and Chico Unified employee, I witness aggressive behaviors and violence every day. This year, my husband and I were attacked in our car in May 2018 at the West Sacramento parking lot on the Chico High campus while we were parked, lined up in the pickup line to take our daughter home. My husband and I are very concerned for our 15-year-old daughter's safety, especially when we pick her up. Our daughter would be a sophomore this year and is an honor student. All areas where students are picked up at Chico High are congested, whether it is Lincoln Avenue, the West Sacramento parking lot, or the side streets. As parents, our safety concerns are shared most definitely by many other parents in Chico. School violence at Chico High has reached an all-time high. I witness this every day. I applaud Chico Unified and Chico PD for bringing the SROs back. Hopefully the new principal at Chico High will be more proactive in resolving incidents of violence so that Chico High is a safer school again. For the safety of all students, parents, staff, and our community, bringing back the SROs will be much appreciated. Thank you for your time and adding a much-needed school resource officer.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this? Now's the time. Okay. So we will now table this to the July meeting, and we are moving on to 10.2.2. Jacqueline.
Good evening. So I'm here in front of you this evening to ask for your authority to open a new cash fund at the county treasury. We started a preschool program here at Chico Unified. Our first classroom opened in January of 17. So we're finishing up the first school year of all 3 school site locations. All 3 are full. All 3 have waiting lists. It's a great program. Just talked with the coordinator last week. We had 6 kids leave one site on a Friday and 6 more come in Monday morning. So it's been a very seamless transition of students coming in and out of that program. As a result, we've basically earned more than we're expected to expend this year. So I need your authority this evening to create a new cash fund at the county treasury in order to put that excess earned money into that account. Otherwise, we'd have to send it back to CDE. So I'd ask for your permission to pass resolution 1430-18.
So moved.
Wait a minute, does Kevin have access to this?
Hold on, we have it so moved.
I'd
so
like to
we have a
second.
We have a motion and a second.
Can't even talk. I'm already ready to say, let's go. But anyway, so any discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I noticed that they had some needs at the school. Will they be able to draw on that before school starts, some of those funds in order to get more play equipment, get their playground outside? And
Yes, I've been working with Robin Solansky, the preschool coordinator, and we've purchased 3 sheds for all 3 school sites, and she's working on getting some border and fencing. I believe it's citrus. So I've been in communication with her since about spring break when I realized we're full and we're going to basically over-earn this contract. And so she's been spending down those monies. So we have another 10 days, but
Great.
she's at the...
Great, so we will be able to use those funds. That's so awesome.
Yes.
Great,
And then
thank
any
you.
money put in the reserve, 10% of it has to go to staff PB, professional development, and 5% can be used for any preschool educational expense. So if there's a year where we maybe aren't full, but we still have staffing expenses and we need to tap into those monies, then we can draw off that 5% of the reserve money to cover those expenditures.
All right, great.
Initially, Robin wasn't full-time. Have we been able to increase her time in this program?
She's still half-time with us because she's half-time with Thermalito, Union Elementary School District. They're actually expanding in Thermalito, so she's looking at actually returning to Thermalito full-time. And we would, due to the success of our program, be hiring someone under Chico Unified as an employee to take that role. And Ted Sullivan and myself have been working with Jim Hanlon on that.
Oh, okay. Well, keep us informed because that was a big part of our, I think, being successful.
Yes, Robin has been great. We've done her state review. We had no issues.
Right.
She runs a very clean program.
Right, that's what we need. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion from the audience? I see none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Okay, we now move to 10.2.3. And let's see. Julie, are 10.2.3 and 10.2.4 kind of combined?
They are.
So do you want them to be, is it going to be?
We have to do the public hearing first.
Okay.
So if you want to open the public hearing.
I open the public hearing on the fee justification study.
Thank you. Every 2 years on the even year, the district develops a justification study for the school impact fees, developer fees. Tonight we have Lynn Gruber with us from Koppel and Gruber Public Finance, and she's going to walk you through the main points of the study, and then we can open it for public comment, and then we can close the hearing and then move to the action item next. Okay? So this is Lynn.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be back. I saw you in 2016. You only get to see me in even years. Great. So as you know, the state allows school districts to justify level 1 and some school districts level 2 and level 3 fees. We're tonight justifying the level 1 fees. which are established by the State Allocation Board, and they increase in January. This year, they've capped them at $3.79 for residential and 61 cents for commercial, which is a correction to the slide. We aren't working on level 2 or level 3. So the fee justification study does justify $3.79 and 61 cents for most commercial and industrial development. And again, as Julie said, we have to justify that in the study. And the study just creates the nexus or the relationship between the fee that we're going to charge and the development that's occurring. The nexus requirements are set forth in Government Code 66,000, and you have to identify the purpose of the fee and the use of the fee, the relationship between the use and the new development, and the relationship between the amount of the fee and the costs attributable to the new development, and the relationship between the amount of the fee to the new development. And it also provides annual accounting provisions for the fees to be collected. What we do is we estimate the cost per student for new and for eligible modernization projects in this district. And that means going through the database and determining how many students are generated out of new development, which is quite a process. So the projected student enrollment for new development over the next 10 years is about 709 students. This uses district-wide generation rates and the projected development of about 2,900 additional units over the next 10 years. And that's an amount, that's based on primarily the city planning information. The cost impact is the eligible cost per student multiplied by the students per household or the student generation rate, and then we divide that amount by the average square footage. I put you to sleep yet? Isn't this math fun? So here's the calculation for Chico. The average cost per housing unit is about $9,477. The average square footage is about $1,860. So that's about $5.10 per square foot. If you remember, we can only charge $3.79. So we have, in fact, justified that $3.79 is justifiable. For commercial and industrial, it goes back to the employee generation rates based on a SANDAG, which is a San Diego Traffic Generator Report that the state says we have to use everywhere. So that's why we have to use that report. Employees create the need for new housing, and the new housing creates the need for new students. And also new employees bring in students as inter-district transfers. So all of those are considered. We also look at how much the new residential are going to offset those fees to come up to a net cost impact. These are the categories that we utilize for the study, and as you can see, everything but rental self-storage justifies a rate of 61 cents a square foot or more, in some cases considerably more. So rental self-storage, because rental self-storage has so much square footage and so few employees, it doesn't justify it. But every other commercial or industrial category does.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm not really understanding. So with commercial type of buildings, it's the nexus between the school having the need, I mean, how does that create more need for schools?
So the justification is that as new jobs, new commercial and new industrial are built within the city, that creates employees, which typically will move into the district.
Okay, so if we're already hitting the contractors who are building the houses for these fees, isn't this kind of double hitting them?
No, we actually, some employees will move into new housing, but not all employees will move into new housing. So we do offset.
But I'm still not getting it, because if these are banks and shopping centers and whatever. People aren't living there.
No,
They're
no.
not bringing their children there, and the children are the ones that are going to schools. And if this is money is going to schools, then why is that? I don't get it.
Can I?
Can you make that connection for me? I'm just not getting it.
Can I do a clarification?
Sure.
So, in the context of building the financial model, they actually then subtract a percentage of the cost for the employees who will not live here right away. And the other aspect of this is there are a number of employees, if you just think about the comments we had earlier about Form 10s, who will work here but live in another community, especially a lesser housing cost community. So they'll go out to, Corning, and they'll just be commuting in.
And so the interdistrict
So
students impact.
don't the fees then that are collected from the houses they live in, wherever they're living, go to their school district, since this is statewide?
That would be correct, yes. But commercial, again, if they're employees and they're bringing students into your district, we do a calculation based on the interdistrict kids that come into Chico Unified from other districts.
One important thing to note is that the district only has one opportunity to collect impact fees for construction project. So one home is only built one time, and we only get to collect that fee once. So if it is purchased by a new homeowner that came to town because they got a job in a new building, a new commercial building, they're not being impacted by developer fees on the home. Only when it was built originally are we able to collect those fees, and the same goes for commercial construction.
Okay, so what you're saying then is that when new businesses come into town, say like Lulu's develops this whole huge thing, which they have obviously, and so there's numerous people, then, okay, you have the houses that are built, additional new houses, but if they're putting more families into other houses over time, then that's going to cause the increase in student population, which is this is designed to help ameliorate?
Yes, that's correct. So new employees that come into our area, bringing their children with them, who get a job in a new commercial building, those are the employees that are generating this fee for commercial construction.
Yeah.
And it is significantly less than housing. So
Yeah, it's very minimal. I know. I just didn't really track the logic on why that is, and it's still a little shaky in my mind, to be honest with you. But
well,
okay.
if you didn't collect that, then you'd have to have a higher fee for the residential homes, right? I mean, if we're trying to use this to build schools because, let's say, 20,000 more people came to Chico because of jobs next 6 months or whatever it is, then we would have a problem and would have to build a school quickly.
the fact is that we can only collect what's allowed by the SAB, that's adjusted every 2 years, which is $3.79 this year. And the cost is over $5 a square foot. So we're not collecting anywhere near. And even at $5 a square foot, it's still not going to cover our construction costs. Not even close.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no doubt about the need. It's just the method on which they're determining this is a little,
The other thing
shaky.
is the state, the codes
Yeah.
give us how to.
Yeah, no, I know
to
that.
make the
I know.
calculation as well. But
I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying. I know it's a little bit, nebulous. Or
Yeah.
Not nebulous, but it's a little bit complicated to get to.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. The other thing we want to remind folks of is redevelopment. So every time somebody comes in with a project that is redeveloping an old project, has to be looked on at a case-by-case basis to determine the net impact. between the old development and what they paid and the new development. So if they have a 2,000 square foot house and it has been demolished voluntarily and being replaced by a 3,000 square foot house, generally you would be charging for the 1,000 more square feet that they are building. That's not always the case, but again, redevelopment always you need to look at case by case basis. The adoption process tonight, we've already had the public review process and the notice process, which has happened 10 days before this public hearing. We're currently holding the public hearing. We would ask that you adopt the resolution this evening, and then it would become effective in 60 days. We would ask that you adopt a resolution with a couple modifications because we found two references to the charter school, one on page 3 at the very last sentence, and then one on page 6 on the end of the second paragraph in section A. So we would ask that you adopt a resolution with the modifications in the report. And with that, if there's any more questions, I'll be happy to answer. 6, at the second paragraph in section A, the last few words.
I was just ready to make a motion if you're ready.
Well, we have the public hearing open. We need to see if anybody else would want to address.
Okay.
Public hearing is open. Does anybody from the audience want to address this? Okay, I see none, so I will now close the public hearing.
Now, okay, I move that we adopt resolution number 1435-18.
Second. As modified.
Yes, as modified. There were two modifications.
Okay, motion's been made and second. Do we have any other discussion amongst the board? Any discussion from the audience? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Did you vote, Liz?
I'm going to oppose this just because I believe that there's a need for it. I just don't like the methodology in which the state has put this forward, and that it's something that this is not the only thing that developer fees cover. Developer fees cover all kinds of things, and it's just escalating, and it's really getting ridiculous. So that's my reason.
Understood. So motion passes 4-1. Thank you for the explanation. Okay, we will now move to 10.2.3.
I want to make a comment first, though.
Sure.
I do want to compliment the builders in our society because we went 20 years, I think, without ever doing the fee increase. And when we first went back to it, we had people here protesting. And literally, it had been such a huge lag in collecting the fees that we were way, way behind. So the fact that it's been posted for 10 days and we don't have any developers, I think is kudos to our community. They understand what's going on, and I think they also understand how well we're using the money. So,
And I'd like to reply to that I think they're all super, super busy right now. And even if they oppose it, they're all so busy they don't have the time to attend this meeting.
Okay. Okay, I think we're on 10.2.4. Did I make a mistake? Because yeah, we're on 4. I said 3 again. So I don't know, Jim or John, you're at 10.2.5.
Yeah, you kind of jumped to 10.2.5 with Eileen's motion.
Okay, so
that was the action.
So I got it. We are. When you made the motion, that moved us to 10.2.4. So we're done there. I'm sorry. We are at 10.2.5.
Good evening.
Voice over IP.
Yes, voice over IP. So I won't take much of your time here. I know we have a big agenda tonight. So voice over IP is a new kind of phone system. It uses our current networking system that we have right now for our computers to do the phone signals rather than using standard phone wires. Our current phone system is about 25 years old. And we're having real problems trying to find parts for that, or even if we had to buy new phones, we actually have to resort to refurbished phones because they don't make those anymore. So what we'd like to do is ask the board at the end of this presentation to make an action of approving our recommendation for a vendor on this.
Okay.
So the district saw presentations from about 5 different vendors, and first we had an RFQ, and then we did an interview with them, and then we did an RFP and whittled that down to 3 vendors, and then we chose a vendor, Packet Fusion, for that. They seem to be the best vendor to meet the needs of the district. They have a lot of experience with this kind of system, with doing the project, this type of project, the size of this project. So there is a bid sheet too that was in the agenda that you can see where we scored the 3 vendors. Really, are there any questions that you have? And just want to be short on this. Yes.
Okay.
So my question is, and I guess this is still abstract for me, so we can't find phones to replace the phones we have now. But what phones are they going to have? I mean, are they just linking to our own cell phones?
So actually, this will come with brand new phones that go into this with this system. So there'll be brand new phones for all the desks, and that's actually a major portion of the cost of this is the phones themselves. One of the big advantages of this too is the fact that there's a desktop app that's in Windows that allows you to do so many more things than you can do on a standard phone.
So the telephones themselves actually plug into a data jack in the wall instead of a regular telephone wire. So that's old school. Telephone wires and all throughout the school are old school. All of the new construction that we have been building has ample data jack all over the place. So the phones will plug straight into that and go through the network instead of through the phone company and through phone lines. So it's a different type of phone, and we will be purchasing those new phones to go with it.
Also, I should point out, if I could, too, that they're called SIP trunks. So it's the data line that goes from the school district out to the world for the phones. We'll have one both at the district office and one at Bidwell, our DR site. So that we'll have redundancy on that. So if one site goes down, all the phones in the district can still go through the other site to make calls.
Well, what about emergency call systems? I know we had a problem at one point when there was a fire and, the cell tower went down or whatever. So what about that?
So we're going to have 2, they call them POTS lines. So it's plain old telephone system. That's the official acronym, POTS. So they're going to have 2 POTS lines at each school site that attach directly to this appliance. So if we do have an issue where our network goes down, we can still make 911 calls over those 2 POTS lines.
So that was a question that I had posed earlier.
Yes.
What about an emergency? So thank you for addressing that. And Kathy touched on another question I had. The new hardware for this system is included in your RFP.
That is correct.
Was that part of what we saw on our lead sheet here, though, as far as the ongoing costs? I don't remember seeing the cost of the new hardware.
So that's part of actually there's the ongoing cost for the SIP line, which is the actual connection.
Correct.
And then the ongoing cost for the support through the
Correct.
vendor
Yes.
is the support for those phones.
Right. So the hardware is a separate cost?
Yes.
Okay.
It is included in the price for the purchasing price, and then also an ongoing for the support. It's part of the support that was listed on the agenda item for the
Very
vendor
good.
support.
Very good. And you said there was 2 phases. This is phase 1, and then we'll implement phase 2?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So with that said, those ongoing costs, the annual ongoing costs, we don't have that now necessarily with the Centrex system?
So we do have ongoing costs right now with the Centrex system, and actually when all is said and done, this will save about $16,000 a year over what our current cost is for the Centrex system.
All right, very good. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion on this item? I see none. Any from the audience? No voice over IP fans out there. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, roll call vote.
Oh.
Griffin, aye. Covey, aye.
Lustall, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Robinson, aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. John, you showed me something new.
Yep. Okay, we now move to 10.2.6.
Okay, so on the screen, just to let you see what's going on out there at Marigold, which is our topic of discussion. On your screen, you should see some current construction pictures, all in a collage for you. We're moving right along with the two buildings, B and D, and there's a couple of pictures of Loma Vista thrown in here as well. Buildings B and D consist of 8 classrooms that need to be completed before school starts next semester. So we are well underway on those buildings. There'll be kindergarten and first grade, 8 classrooms. The bids overall for Marigold Elementary came in higher than was previously approved by this board, and we're asking for approval tonight of a new budget amount. All of our other projects in Phase 3 have come in right on target, and we were pretty proud of that. We are a little set back at the costs that came in for this project, and we believe there's a few reasons why this has occurred. Some of them are discussed in your board agenda lead sheet, but primarily I think the district was focused on the implementation of the facilities master plan schedule. And the big question was, can we get architects, design projects, get them through the state architect, get contractors on board, and get these buildings in the ground within the schedule of our master plan, which we are behind on. But we were trying very hard to keep these projects moving and have all of our Phase 3 projects occur at the same time. While we were so busy doing that, I think we failed to recognize that we really are tapping all of our available resources too much. We have overloaded the construction companies in our area between us and commercial development and residential development that's going on in Chico. As Liz was mentioning, everybody's busy, very, very busy. So our big project that we are very proud of really wasn't very attractive to bidders, so we didn't get a lot of competition, which was very unfortunate. And so we are faced with a higher cost than we expected.
Julie, may I? Oh, I turned myself off. When we did the interviews for the pool of contractors and stuff for these projects, that was one of the major things that we considered was capacity. Is that the point at which we screwed up, or?
No, I don't believe so, and I don't believe anybody screwed up. The economy is booming and the market is booming.
DSA, DSA, DSA.
Yeah. We did have a significant issue with our schedule with the Division of the State Architect approval on this project that really landed us in the worst bidding time possible. Right at the very beginning of summer, we bid it on May 8th, and then we bid it again on June 1st, trying to get more participation for certain scopes of work that have a high dollar value. The contractor on this project is a joint venture company, so it's UBC local company and Clark & Sullivan from the Sacramento area, who both companies have worked for us very successfully in the past. They really did a lot of outreach, held a meeting at the Valley Contractors Exchange to try to recruit bidders, yes.
Did the Santa Rosa fires occur after we went into that process?
Our bidding?
Our bidding and our contractor pool selection.
The fires occurred after our general contractor selection.
Yeah.
But prior to our subcontractor selection. And the subcontractor selection is competitively bid. And it represents a major portion of the cost. So the California wildfires, the hurricanes in the southern United States, and the threat of tariffs on materials have seriously impacted this pricing. So we reviewed the detailed information and discussed all of our options with the facilities committee last Wednesday at length. The committee recommended, and we all agree, that it's in our best interest to move forward because delaying at this point will only cost more to get less product if we do not. So that's what we're bringing forward to you tonight. We hope that you will approve this new budget, and then we will bring back a guaranteed maximum price for your approval as soon as we have it finalized. Any questions? We can't hear you, Kathy.
I'm sorry. Oh, darn it. Okay. I apologize. I moved 10.2.6, and as part of the facilities committee, we went through a detailed exploration of this, and it is happening everywhere. DSA hit us in the gut, and I think this is the best we can do.
I'll second that motion, and I would like to comment on it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was reading
That's
that.
okay.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion?
Yes.
Go.
One of the reasons why I'm going to support this is that this school site is one of our most impacted because of all of the additional construction that's going on around it. And to scale down our project, I think would really be a total community disservice to support the kids that are coming out of that area, which is, directed in order to maintain our green line boundaries and things. So this is painful, but I am going to support it.
I'd like to also comment as part of the Facilities Committee. Dr. Kaiser and I sat in last week, and I want everyone to know that our facilities staff is going through line by line by line trying to save money on this project. So they're still working on that, and I also support going forward with this.
Julie, quick question. As far as, we have a very extensive general plan. I think our general plan pretty much doesn't have enough money to complete everything anyway.
Right.
But on other projects down the road, do we put on the brakes on maybe on some of those and wait for prices to come in a different direction or hold this out?
I'm really glad you mentioned that because it's in my notes, and I failed to mention at the Facilities Committee meeting, we also discussed being very strategic about the last Phase 3 project, which is Neil Dow, in the bidding of that project. So we just bid the site work in underground utilities, and we will proceed with that work likely this summer. But we're going to slow down the bidding for all of that work as we progress through it, hopefully bidding the major building portion of it late fall, which we think will have a little more luck with getting potential bidders to compete for our project and therefore lower pricing. So we're being strategic about that.
Good.
One other thing I want to mention is that We have over $6 million of district-held contingency on all of our Phase 3 projects. We will spend some of that on unforeseen things that we run into on these, as we're moving down the road on these projects. But the remainder of that will help to offset how much we're over on this project.
And I would just like to remind the board, when Measure K was adopted, what we heard from the community is that they're willing to pay. They're willing to pay for the tax.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion from the audience? I'll come back to you. Okay, none from the
Okay.
audience. You're coming back.
You guys, you worked for us before, you kicked ass on Chico Jr., but I was going by every day. So, do this one well.
Park Sullivan's back there. Right there. Exciting.
Okay, back to my motion that's on the floor and discussion about just about everything. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're still with you, right? 10.2.7?
Oh, now they get up, okay.
Okay, so you
Emma.
recognize these faces. We have Chris Brown and Zoe Bick from DLR Group and Greg Melton from Melton Design Group. We've been meeting with the stakeholders at Emma Wilson Elementary School, the kindergarten teachers and parent representatives, and the principal over the last month or so. And tonight, our design group is going to show you the concept that we've come up with and ask for your approval to move on to design document after you have a chance to review the conceptual design. So with that, I will hand it over to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Chris Brown with DLR Group. So now onto some fun stuff. So we sat down with the stakeholders at Emma Wilson and talked about what the needs are for this campus. And it really centered around the needs in the kindergarten area in the classroom, the need for additional classrooms, adequate sizing of the kindergarten classrooms, classrooms that have restroom facilities for the students, and also adequate playground space, enough space for all of the students to be able to play in. And then also area for the students to be able to eat in that area, as well for the lunch under shade shelter. We also looked at on the campus, there's the main courtyard in the center that has a big mound on it, and looking at the drainage of that, there's some gopher issues with that as well. So what we can do to that courtyard. And then the other area down here at the bottom is there's an outdoor lunch area for the students that currently does not have shade or covering for the elements as well. So we're going to be looking at that. So the campus concept is to create a new kindergarten complex adjacent to the existing classroom building here to the north. And we'll get into a little bit more detail of that in a minute. The other thing is to level that courtyard in the center and taking out that mound so we can take away the issues that we're having there. And then adding a new lunch canopy area to that area in the south. So looking at that lunch canopy, you see the photographs here to the left here. You see that open area here where it's bright and sunny, open to the rain. So we're going to add a new lunch canopy here to add that a covering for the students. And then these are some images of the mound in the center. You can see here that this mound is draining right towards this building, so we're getting some damage to this building here. So we want to be able to direct the water away from the building to alleviate that issue, and then also take care of the gopher problem. So just imagine this being a flattened area, and then still having some walkway paths through it from building to building. So if you've seen me before when we designed Neil Dow Elementary, I always like to bring something about the school into the projects that we do. So looking at Emma Wilson, I did a little bit of searching online for a photograph, which actually was kind of difficult to find an image of Emma Wilson. So I ended up looking at Chico State Archives and found this one of her in 1880 as an art teacher at Chico State Normal School. So the idea of Emma Wilson being involved with art, how can we bring art into this campus? So these are some ideas that we start to pull from, art in architecture and color, and how we can start to get different effects of that color on the ground, not just on walls, but bringing different color into a canopy structure to be able to get that kind of filtered light into an area. The idea of art walls. Currently on campus, there is this here wall here on the portable in the kindergarten area that has a mural painted onto it. But are there some other areas that we can bring to this area where students can actually paint year to year and kind of make it their own kind of art mural installation in their own playground? So when looking at the new kindergarten complex, one of the main ideas here is, along with the new building that you see here to the north, is creating a new entry into this complex, which would be right here for parents to be able to pick up their kids. There would be a covering area here in the front where parents could stand under to wait for their kids as they're released. But then this covering also acts then as the lunch shelter, where there are tables there for students to be able to eat lunch over the lunch hour and do other activities under covering of the elements. There will also, under another project, there is a fence line in front of this. So we're going to look at how we can integrate this new element into that fence line. And then also using as much of the building as possible as that fence line as well. The other thing about putting the building here to the north, it does offer a shield to that park. So we're creating an enclosed kindergarten complex where there's a little bit more safety and security from the front of the school and the park where students are playing outside. The building also offers a better solar orientation in this direction as well when we're looking at glass and windows into these new classrooms. And the new play area, Greg will get to in a few minutes and talk about that. And then this is the existing classroom building here. So this would be what the new would look like. So looking at the building itself, we're looking at 3 new kindergarten classrooms. Each of those classrooms would have access to a workroom, restroom facilities. In them, there would be storage to the outside so that we do have an area for play equipment, the tricycles for the new trike path in the playground area. We're looking at a student restroom access from the outside, so they don't have to go into the classroom to use the restroom. They have direct access from that playground. And then a staff restroom as well in this complex. And then we're also putting in a collaboration room that can be used by any of the kindergartners or anybody on campus can utilize this collaboration space that would also be connected to an outdoor learning area within that complex. And then Greg will talk a little bit about.
Well, like Chris mentioned, we really wanted to address, art in this project. So I have a few items here. As you come through his entry into the area, you're first greeted with our green turf. So you're not just walking into a big paved space. But the cool part is right behind that turf is our focal entry elements, which are the mascot of the school, which is the ram. And so you can see the 3 rams we've shown on the screen here. They all have a little different personality, as all our kids do. So they'll be a material and a size where these kindergartners can get on them, climb on them, fall off them, et cetera, and have a wonderful time as they come in to the element. With that, we have some of the standard elements of playgrounds, a swing set, open paved area, all kind of surrounded in a circulation area that allows the kids to move through the site in an easy way. And along with that, we'll have shade trees because we know that concrete or asphalt gets very hot, so we want to integrate the shade trees into the project. But another fun element, when we were thinking about Emma Wilson and the art walls, is creating a buddy bench and mural wall. And as Chris mentioned, several schools in the district have the friend bench or buddy bench. I know Sierra View has one. My son is there, and it's a great facility, a great element to have. But we also wanted to add a big wall there that each class every year could come and repaint as part of an art class, an art project for the kindergartners. And that could follow them, forever and on their pictures or photographs of their kindergarten. So that was fun. And finally, in addition to the paved area, we have the collaboration grove, we call it, our outdoor classroom. So we wanted to add a little bit of room there, bring in some conifers, some evergreens to really kind of create a fairy ring of trees out there, some good shade, and have an outdoor classroom that the kids could use as a part of that collaboration room, but also provide more of a quiet space also. If they don't want to be running and bouncing balls or swinging, there's some additional spaces because we have kids of every nature here. So some of them want to play on the grass, some of them want to swing, but some of them want to sit in the corner and read. So that's another aspect we want to integrate into this space. So that handles that.
I have a question. I've been on the Emma campus a couple of times, but I'm not familiar with places where the kids of any grade level, do they have space where they can grow things? Small garden boxes or plant flowers, or so they do. Okay. Will this complex have a little space for kids to productively play in the dirt?
So the current garden gets displaced by our kindergarten complex because it's getting larger, and we will have to recreate a garden area, but it is previously, or will be previously, just adjacent to this kindergarten space. There will be open gates, or gates that can open to the garden area. Typically, there's a teacher that comes forward and runs that program. So we hope that when it's recreated, we'll have a teacher that takes ownership of that.
So back to the art. Art being very colorful, and we wanted to be able to bring that into the project. So looking at this new entryway into the kindergarten complex and creating this wall here that becomes some sort of a barrier to the very openness looking into this new complex. We didn't want it to be completely open to the front of the school, just for some added security to this area. So creating this concrete wall here with these colored panels, and these colored panels would be semi-transparent so that's daylight and you can come through it. And looking at the different materials of the new building, we want to make sure that the building isn't completely new, that it doesn't fit into this campus. So how are we blending in with the existing structures? Looking at the existing building over here on the right and the masonry pattern that you see here, what we're going to do is we're going to take the same textures of that masonry. We know we're not going to be able to match the colors exactly, and I don't know if we're going to really want to do that. So we're going to come up with, we can get the exact same textures, but it'll be a slightly different colors. We'll probably go with some gray tones and some more neutral colors to be able to blend that in. And we also know that the roof won't be able to be able to match it too. The red roofs that are there are very faded. So if we put a red roof on the new building, it's going to look very brand new and bright, and it's going to look completely different. So we'll probably look at a different color for that roof. The one thing that we will keep also is there is a white fascia that goes around the building, and keep that same white fascia around the new structures as well to also blend that in. So looking on the inside of this, where the tables are and being under this colored area, and if you can imagine on this ground, you'll get that color at certain times of the day when the sun is shining on that, and seeing this concrete wall, and then these either glass panels or depending on the cost, we want to make sure that we're very efficient cost-wise. So we'll look, once we start getting some numbers back on what this canopy is, we'll decide on the product, whether it's polycarbonate panels, glass, or a resin panel. We want to look at the durability also. We want to make sure that this is going to hold up over time. We don't want it to fade, and we also don't want to create a heat sink under this thing and make it very hot. We want to make sure that whatever we use is going to reflect the heat off and also get some good circulation coming through this. So that will be investigated as we move forward. And then a look from above at the canopy structure and the new building. You can see here, not copying that roof exactly, but just doing a simple single sloped roof for this. And on the other side of this with some clear story glass to the north to bring some nice indirect lighting into these classrooms is kind of really the best. So that is it for our presentation for where we are with goals.
Ms. Kissel, can you remind me how many classrooms Emma Wilson will have with this edition? Will they then have 5? How many are there now?
Oh, kindergarten?
Yes.
There are currently 2 actual kindergarten classrooms on this campus.
Okay.
There's a portable next door, currently housing TK. It has a restroom in it. But there are 3 kindergarten classes living in regular classrooms right now on this campus. So we're building 3 more, so they will have 5 traditional kindergarten classrooms that are adequate size with restrooms in them, fenced in together in a kindergarten complex, which is what's suggested by CDE.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
So we are looking at the addition of the 3 new classrooms, the playground area, leveling the berm at the center of campus, adding a new shade structure to the older students' lunch area, which is directly adjacent to their multipurpose room. Having the ability to have our kindergartners eat lunch under this shade structure will really lighten the load on that multipurpose room, especially in inclement weather. It's pretty small, multi-purpose room. It was built in the era of year-round school, so they never intended to have to feed this many kids all at one time in that room. So that will really help. Couple other things that aren't nearly as jazzy that we're going to do is that portable classroom building that currently houses transitional kindergarten. It's going to be relocated because this building goes right over where it's at. It'll be moved to the back of the campus where there are currently 2 other portable classrooms. And in a future phase of the master plan, those portables go away and a new permanent classroom building gets constructed back there, but we're going to relocate that. In the meanwhile, the other thing that we have learned that we need to do is to replace the intercom clocks and bell system at this entire campus. So not only will the new classrooms have new clocks and bells, but we'll be purchasing a new intercom system that will address, the public address system in all of the existing classrooms on this campus. So with that, we open it up for any questions you might have.
I think we should mention that Emma Wilson is full. I mean, we talk about our other elementary schools, but it is full.
This is true.
Julie, okay, so on this slide we're seeing right now, I see the fence in the front and then the wall with the panes. It looks like it's offset. Will that opening be able to close?
Yeah, there will be a gate right
Okay.
there, that opening in the front. Yes. And the building is offset, so around the back side of this building, we do have doors that the staff wanted to have for emergency purposes to be able to, if there is a situation, they can get the student out another exit building so they can get around.
I guess I did have one more question. You'd said you'd met with staff at Emma Wilson. Have they seen the concepts here? Like the playground, for instance, and the colors and...
We, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did meet with the staff before summer break. We did not have these exact renderings, but we did talk about the ideas of the color and the art, the positioning of the building and the playground. But we was not able to get back to them and talk about the specific renderings and that front idea. But we did talk about all of this concepts. And that's where
The most important part is the floor plan, and they played an integral role in choosing which floor plan because we had multiple scenarios for them to review.
Sure.
And so they did look at that and agree with that.
It's been my experience, too, having done playground duty like twice in my life, and I will never do it again. But the playground, it's just not my thing. The playground is important to be able to have a line of sight to all the children. And, you talked about the rams there, and then there was the quiet area off to the side. And so I just want to be sure that staff has seen that and they're okay with that, and there's not going to be a little hidey corner that they can't see.
Right. So. The outdoor teaching area that's outside of the collaboration space is really the only spot that would be difficult maybe to supervise.
Right.
And the staff asked for that. They really were very excited about having that space.
Good, okay.
And the other thing, too, with that, what would be really easy to do is add a gate back there if we wanted to
Right, to
separate
close
that.
it off
So
when it's not
kids
used.
could get around that corner, which is probably a good idea.
Very good. Thank you.
Any others? None others? I'm very, you? I'm very excited about the color and the homework you did on Emma Wilson. I had no idea that she was an art teacher. I was shocked that from 1880. So I really like the concept, the idea.
So I'm going to jump in here and say I do hope you take the concept back to the site, and in particular, I think the layout of the classrooms, I know there's been a lot of input into that, but get some community and staff input into the use of the art and the use of the color. I think that those are things that look great initially, but don't always stay updated or look wonderful over time. So I would just want to make sure that that's something that we have buy-in into.
So what we're asking for tonight is approval of the conceptual plan and your permission and ability to move forward into design documents through approval at
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree with what Superintendent Staley said, and that was why I brought that question up about staffing. So if we approve this tonight, will there be time to get there? Staff is gone, so to get
absolutely.
staff input, I'd hate to have you do all that work only to have them go, no, I don't like this, or I want to add this. See what I mean? I'm trying to get a timeline.
We would continue to work with the staff all the way through construction. They're kept in the loop. They're an integral part of our team, and we don't move forward without making sure that we're checking in with them every step of the way.
Very good.
And we definitely want to also make sure that even we engage the community in this area as well, whether it's at a back-to-school night or something in the fall, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed.
Excellent. Thank you.
Once Array comes back.
Any discussion from the audience on this project? I see none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. We are going to take a 10-minute recess.
Mr. President, could, thank you. Kevin and our tech people, is there any way that presentations like that can be broadcast to our Chromebooks?
I could send it to you ahead of time so you had it available to you. We could do that in the future.
Oh, if you could do that, because I have old eyes, and it's so difficult to, to see it on that screen. If I
did
had,
provide you a hard copy.
I do. No,
You do
that
have
I
okay.
did. Yeah, it's just that for. No, I don't have a hard copy.
You don't have
I
a
placed
draft
it on your.
Oh, excuse me. You did. I do have it. It's right under my left elbow.
Okay.
We're on 10.2.8.
Correct. This is the public hearing of the budget. Similar to the LCAP, we have to have a public hearing. This is the meeting we provide the information on the budget and then basically open it up for any public comment. Then we bring it back next week, and we really don't do the presentation at that point. Just ask for your approval based on this information and any changes you provide us.
So you want me to open the public hearing at this point?
I think I would like to give the presentation, then open up the public hearing.
Go.
And Jacqueline isn't going to do this?
No, unfortunately, you're getting the B team. That's me. Okay, so this is the 2018-19 original budget. We want to let you know where we have been. So as a reminder, this is really two parts, two budgets. It's the estimated actuals for 17-18, which gives us our ending balance for the 17-18 year, which become the beginning balances for 18-19. So when we brought the budget to you at second interim, we were expecting a negative change in fund balance for the unrestricted side of the budget of $1.8 million. Things have changed, and here's what's changed. We mentioned this earlier, but at the time we put this together, we were projecting our average daily attendance percentage compared to enrollment at 95.36, compared to 95.5. That difference is almost $162,000. We did see a increase in local revenue due to interest revenue. We're actually earning more within the county treasury. We have larger dollar amounts in the county treasury right now. And then E-rate, the federal funding in the E-rate projects also, that's one-time money, and we don't record that until we receive it. And then our contributions to our restricted programs increased $181,000. On the expenditure side, we did not have compensation increases when we presented it to you last time at second interim. Remember, we had a second multi-year projection that captured that information to show you the impact. But now that it's in there, that's almost $1.4 million increase in certificated salaries. We have almost a $300,000 increase in our classified salaries. And again, benefits increase for all units, increasing over $400,000. We did see a decrease in our supplies expense because we had placed a placeholder there for that settlement agreement, as your reminder, especially with the one-time money. So once we moved it out of supplies, it went into compensation. And that was a change of $1.3 million. And then we have a decrease in our services expense. Frankly, we saw quite a bit of reduction in power. And what we realized is those solar arrays that we put in place in 2015-16, finally those savings are catching up now. We've seen quite a few rebate checks, and those really are functioning at a pretty high level. Now, as a reminder, we have debts of almost $300,000, but that's only for 6 years. So once that's paid off, we'll still see the benefits in our power related to those solar arrays. We have a decrease in our transfers out. I will give kudos to our nutrition service program. They worked very hard to reduce costs and increase revenues, and they've been very effective at that. And then you can see just a small amount of other change there. So we went from a negative change expectation of 1.8, now at a negative 2.1. I think this number gets better, I will admit, based on just what we heard earlier related to the enrollment ADA percentage going to 95.6. That helps. But the big picture continues to be one-time money in this budget. And I do this not only for your benefit, but for those people that stick around and want to watch this. This is the issue that's flowing through our financial statements to understand what's really happening. If you look at 15-16, we received $5.9 million in revenue in that year. We did have expenditures of $2.4 million, but we recorded $3.5 million of surplus. We recorded more revenue than we had expenditures in that year. But we're still going to spend those dollars, and we had intended to spend those dollars in future years. So what you see then as we do that, we have deficits because those dollars live in our fund balance, and now it looks like we're deficit spending $2.3 million, when in fact those were dollars that were received in a different fiscal year. So you can see that we have a 3.5 surplus in 15-16. Then those same dollars look like we're having a deficit spending of 2.3, and then in the 17-18 year, looks like we have a deficit of $700,000. We still are expecting to carry over almost $450,000 of that 15-16 one-time money. I would say I think this has been a very good use of one-time money. I'd give a lot of credit to our educational service side of the house. You've taken one-time money and gotten a lot of years of benefit and spent it on things that will benefit the district for many years. So then in 16-17, we received one-time money, $2.4 million. We surplused that year almost $2 million, or a little over $2 million. And so then in the 17-18 year, we're expecting to spend $1.7 million of that carryover. We'll have another $300,000 carryover, but it looks like we have a deficit in the 2017-18 year of $1.7 million. And again, in 17-18, we received one-time money. This one-time money ongoing is an interesting concept, but that's where we're living. So we received 1.6, almost $1.7 million of revenue. We are expecting to spend a little under $1 million of those dollars. So we are going to surplus or carry over $730,000. So you can see that these dollars being received in one year and spent in another can really cause the financial statements to look either more positively than really what's happening operationally, or much worse than really is happening operationally. So assumptions, when we build a budget, we have to make some assumptions. We don't just make up the numbers. We actually have some logic behind those numbers. And these are the assumptions that we use. The cost of living adjustment within the local control funding formula is 3%. That's an increase compared to what we were previously estimating, about 2.6%, but the governor has pushed forth a cost of living adjustment at 3%. And I will say we are, and this is the big picture for 2018-19, the economy continues to really outperform at the state level. This is his last budget. He has pushed money into the local control funding formula, so he will be able to walk away from office saying, I was the governor who created a new formula and I fully funded it by the time I walked out of the office. We continue to see modest increase in average daily attendance. We are projecting almost 124 more students than we received in this current year, 17-18. And we'll have a nice slide that will show you that kind of projection over a number of years. Our unduplicated students identified in those targeted subgroups is about 48%. Now remember, previously that was down about 44, 43%, but now with some of the enhanced ways in which we can identify these students, we're actually seeing a higher uptick in that percentage, which is a good thing. It'll bring us. So it used to be that you really had to only have direct certification from county programs that would provide students that were eligible for free and reduced meals, but they've expanded that now to we have students that when they are identified receiving insurance or Medicaid support, they then fall into that self-certified status. So we have more students that are receiving other services being identified within those targeted percentages.
Kevin,
yes.
Excuse me. On that, the threshold between concentration and supplemental is still 55%. So even though our percentage has gone up, it's not actually increased our per ADA allotment, right?
It increases the supplemental funding. It doesn't get us over the threshold
Right.
for concentration dollars.
That was my question. Okay, thank you.
So in 18-19, again, the economy doing very well. The original projections, we're going to see $4 million of one-time money in 2018-19. Salaries and benefits were updated, and they reflect what we call a position control as of May 15th, with all vacancies included in that. We also want to point out the compensation settlements that we reached are not included in this original budget because that agreement is predicated on a calculation that will be done in September. So we have put numbers behind that, and we will show that to you in a multi-year projection so you see the impact of what we've already negotiated. So these numbers are going to look a lot better. Okay? And then we do have the STRS and PERS costs at 16.28% for STRS and 18.062% for PERS, and we'll show you that increase year over year for the last 5 years in our last slide. So again, this is the big story for 2018-19. We are at our targets. We are fully funded. There is no more conversation about gap funding. We're not going to be talking to you, should we be using school services or Department of Finance. This is a fully funded local control funding formula. So what you see in that kind of far right side is that the target is in fact the 18-19 number. There is no remaining gap funding. So what we really see is our base grant dollars, that grade span adjustment piece, whether you're in TK3, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, 12. And then we see supplemental dollars for those students that are identified in those targeted areas. So here's a picture of our enrollment, and along with our average daily attendance, you can see what we've experienced since 2015-16 is a really kind of nice gradual increase in our student population. We think there's lots of factors that have contributed to this. We think we're offering quality programs. You saw it in the LCAP that was presented earlier. We're doing a lot of good things for kids. I would also point out our facilities continue to improve with the support of our community. And we have great teachers that are doing good work in the classroom every day. But the bottom line is we're seeing our enrollment and ultimately our funded average daily attendance increasing. So our income statement. Now, as a reminder, this does not include compensation, but we are projecting a $2.7 million surplus, more revenue than expenditures, again, without the compensation increase built in. And on the restricted side, we are expecting to spend some of the carryover dollars on the restricted side. So ultimately, altogether, we're showing at this point a positive $2 million change in fund balance. Here's how we spend our money. We spend it on people. And this represents 84%. That will change when we include the compensation component. That percentage will go up. This does not have that.
On that note then, what month do we determine that? Is that
September.
Okay.
Yeah, the agreement actually calls that we will do a new local control funding formula after the Labor Day holiday, early September. And then by September 30th, we will have a projection of what that increase is going to be. Not right now. As a percentage of the whole, it's a really small number. So here is a bigger number, our contributions to our restricted programs. We're spending almost $20 million now of unrestricted money going on to the restricted side of the budget. The two big programs are special education and the routine restricted maintenance account. Special education is almost $16 million, and the routine restricted maintenance account is up to $3.6 million. You'll notice there is a connection, though, directly below on the transfers in. The RDA pass-through revenues is used for maintenance, so really the impact is that difference between 3.6 and the 2.9 million. So as a reminder, we are supposed to keep 3% of our budget towards RMA, but we don't have to get there yet. We have to be there in the 2021 year. So we are actually budgeting less than RRMA in 2018-19 with the idea that we're going to step that up to get to that 3%. Now, we've been at 3% before. This is actually a choice that we've made because we have a lot of projects that are going on right now. And frankly, this is a way that we can help the budget overall by reducing that contribution. But ultimately, although we spend $3.6 million in this budget on RMA, redevelopment agency dollars, remember we receive pass-through revenues from the former RDAs, those dollars come into Fund 41 and get transferred into our general fund and offset the RRMA calculation, if that makes sense. So those dollars are in essence used for RMA.
Is special ed growing in
Yes, thank you.
complexity or in numbers or both?
Yeah, why the increase?
Both. We see increases. Last year, we saw increases in the classrooms that we needed because we had more students, but also in the identification, we're just seeing more autistic students, more students with emotional disturbance. Those are classrooms that we have lower student-to-teacher ratios and more expensive.
In the years I've been on the board, I've seen the special ed contribution be like 12 million, then went up to 14, and now it's almost 16. Is there anything we can do about that? Are we looking at how to mitigate some of these costs? Because it's not sustainable. It's just going to keep on going.
Right. We're not alone.
I know.
In this issue.
I know.
I mean,
We want to serve the children, absolutely, but those are substantial increases over the years.
They are. We've looked at almost $1 million increases year over year. Some of that, and you'll see, is almost $1 million increase in this budget, but we do budget conservatively at original, especially around NPS or non-public school placements, because we just don't know. If those students show up, we have to place them, and those are high dollar amounts. So we have almost $350,000, $400,000 built into this budget for NPS placements. If those students don't show up, we can reduce that as the year goes on, but we really are budgeting as if we're going to have 3 or 4 of those students and have the expense associated with them. We do plan on evaluating the special education program from a fiscal perspective. We understand the program and the fiscal go hand in hand, but we'd like to look at it from a fiscal standpoint first to see if there are things that we're overlooking that we can help guide into the program area as well. So that is something we plan to bring to you early in the fall.
Kevin, as a percentage of encroachment, how different are we from other districts? My understanding is we are right at the average in terms of percent of encroachment on general fund.
Yeah, we're very similar to other districts.
Not that that's ideal, but.
No. And then just the last thing is we do transfer out dollars. We're projecting an increase, and I think this is where when we bring this back to you at first interview, you're going to see a change. Right now we have almost $450,000 of unrestricted contribution going into the nutrition service program to support that program, very consistent to what we've done in the past. However, some changes in that program we think are going to increase revenues fairly substantially without a lot of increased costs to do that. So at this point in time, I don't have all that detail of what we can expect, but I think this area is going to improve for us coming into first interim after school gets started. So we pass 3-year budgets. So taking a look at our multi-year assumptions, the cost of living adjustments at 3%. We talked about that. There is no gap any longer. Estimate the increase of average daily attendance. And then in 2019-20, an increase of another 154 ADA. We are increasing our certificated staffing due to increased enrollment. We have 5 more FTE built into this budget in 18-19 and another 6 in 19-20. We increased classified staffing due to additional buildings and construction. So we have custodian being hired additionally to what we have now in each of those years. We have increased the budget for the step and column costs, changes in the STRS and PERS rate, and we do have some inflation for utility expenses, fuel, and liability insurance. We also point out we have net changes in certificated and classified when we have a retiree, for instance, somebody from the highest end of the salary schedule retires, we tend to replace them with somebody at the lower end of the salary schedule, and we make note of that in our projections. We also have all-day kindergarten aides being phased in, an additional $84,000 in 19-20, an additional $72,000 in 2021. And we continue to move that amount of money for technology within the LCAP. Our goal has always been to get to $1 million. So in 18-19, there's another $250,000 already on top of the $600,000 that you saw earlier. And then into the 2021 year, we add another $150 to get us to that goal of $1 million. And I think what's important to note about that, if you take those dollars and you add them to what we spend for textbooks, for instance, we're spending almost $700,000 a year on textbooks. You know, the way we deliver education and textbooks to students is going to look different in the future. And so it's not just this is all technology and this is all textbooks. Those dollars at some point are going to blend together. We still have a substantial investment and a substantial amount of budget that's going towards textbooks and educational supplies for kids.
Before you move on from the assumptions, did you carry the 3% COLA out all 3 years? Or just for 18,
No,
19?
I'm sorry, that was just 18, 19. I should have provided you those COLAs. They match with the department, not the Department of Finance, but FICMAT's projection on their calculator, which I believe is about 2.5% in the 2 out years. But I can get those numbers for you specifically.
Thanks.
Yeah. So here is the multi-year projection. We only look at the unrestricted side because we live within our means on the restricted. In other words, if we have reduced Title I dollars, we reduce those expenditures in those programs. So we really do focus in on the multi-year projection and the unrestricted side of the budget. So what you see, and we talked about this earlier, is that we're projecting a positive change of 2.7 million. And this is where the numbers get really wonky because we don't have the compensation pieces built in here, and we have the one-time money built in here. You basically see that then we're going to have a $5.9 million positive change, and then we're out to a $7.3 million positive change. And even with our designations, even if we go below and assign those reserves, we still end the 3 years in $16.5 million. This looks great, but this isn't the truth. This isn't what's happening. So we do project 2 other multi-year projections, and here's the first one. The first one shows the compensation settlement specifically. And you can see that positive 2.7 becomes a negative 3.1, almost 3.2 million. And then a negative 2.5, almost 2.6, and a negative 1.1. But remember, there's still one-time money that's flowing through here. You can still see, even in this environment, we still make all of our reserve requirements, and we have almost $2 million left above that, even out into the 2021 year. And this is really the most functional multi-year projection or numbers if I'm in your position as the board. Because what we do is we strip away all the one-time money and we add in the cost of the settlements. So what you see is that we're projecting a negative change of fund balance of 1.7 million, and then we're at 2.7 million in 1920. Then we drop down to 1.3 million. We still maintain all of our reserve requirements, and we still estimate to have over $1.6 million in reserve over and above those. So I think the story here is that we have now and will have a deficit. I would say that we didn't before, and we made a priority on compensation. And so now we have some work to do. This is an original budget that is fully loaded for all vacancies, so it is really kind of the most conservative look that we'll have. But this is not inconsistent to what we've planned and talked about in the past. We knew when we made that a priority, there was going to be some adjustments that would have to be made. This is the impact of PERS and STRS. And before we've kind of showed you 3 years, now we want to show you what happened since 15, 16. And this is one of those things that I think really applies the pressure on what you saw just previously, that we are seeing $1 million increases year over year related to these percentage increases. So if you go back in 15, 16, that increase was $790,000. In 18, 19, we're at 1.1 million. The only maybe light at the end of the tunnel is in 2021, our STRS increase goes down. So you're only seeing an increase about half of what we've experienced previously. Now, whether that will change, we'll see. But that's basically the projections that we have right now. This is a substantial investment in our staff, frankly, and is really part of compensation in many respects. The percentage STRS increase actually is lowered. And as a reminder, the STRS rate is established by the legislature. PERS is established by the separate PERS board. The PERS is expected to continue outgoing. The STRS, actually, they're projecting even a decrease beyond this, but they haven't evaluated all of their returns on investments and other things like that. So what we're bringing for you is an original budget for 18. I would say that what the takeaways are, we're fully funded. We have 3-year agreements with all of our bargaining units. This is the second year of that agreement. There is some work to be done here. We have deficits now. I believe there are deficits that we can manage to the point when we get to the 2021 year, we want to be break even. We want to be right at a positive balance. So there's some work to be done, but I think we can get there. I'm confident we can get there.
I now open the public hearing for the original budget, the original budget. I don't see any discussion to it, so I will close the public hearing. Go ahead.
So when you're looking at this fiscally and thinking, well, where can I reduce? Again, with the vast majority of our money spent on people and our success tied to both incoming enrollment and outgoing excellence, which also then requires facilities that accomplish both of those. Where is it that you think you're going to reduce?
I think it's two parts. I think it's not only education service side, I think it's business service side, sharing equally the load. I think a couple things. I think the revenue estimates that we're hearing from nutrition services could help substantially. Because remember, that's $450,000 contribution that we're making, and that goes across all years.
And why do they think it's going to go up?
Because the way the federal government has changed the way we can identify students that are eligible for meals, to the point where we wouldn't have to really add staff, but we potentially could add a lot more meals, reimbursable meals at a higher rate. So I'd say that's one part of it. Two, the local control accountability plan, we're spending almost over $13 million in that program. If you look at the local control funding formula, technically we only have to be spending about $9.5 million. So we are certainly providing a very rich program. I'm not arguing these aren't good things for kids, but I think anytime now we have 4 years of data within the LCAP, it's always good to look at how we're serving those kids and are we getting the biggest bang for our buck? And I don't have all those answers. Those are conversations we have to go through in the fall, but I think those are conversations that need to happen. And when you look at a lot of the goals that are being met, can we effectively meet that maybe different ways? Maybe not, but I would say that that's an exercise that we need to go through. And again, we have some debt that I think is going to come off the books looking into those out years as well. And in many respects, the multi-year agreement that we reached really isn't a 3-year, because if you look out, it's almost a 4-year agreement, because there just isn't enough money in that 4th year. We're going to need those increases to cover that deficit. So I think what you're going to find is we have pushed the dollars out earlier than a lot of districts may have done, but they're going to get to the same percentage as we are. We've just done it earlier in many respects.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Kevin, we mentioned, excuse me, there was conversation about the lunch program, and in some of the discussion, I was reading some of the background in what's in the Farm Bill, which supports the public school lunch program, and I saw cuts being in the bill that was being supported by the Republican House. Do we have anything coming through on?
We haven't heard anything specifically on that. I'm aware of the conversations you're talking about, but we have not heard anything specific to the lunch program and how that might affect it.
Yeah, that's just that. I don't know if the public is aware that we only get about $1.43 per meal to provide the meals we provide. It's ridiculous, and they want to cut it.
Yeah, I would say if you look at that program, we do a really nice job of feeding a lot of kids in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
We are at 10.2.9. We have already closed the public hearing. We are now on action for the original budget to accept this.
Actually, we will bring this back to you on the 27th for your action. This is only a public hearing.
Oh. Well, it says public hearing, discussion, action, so that's why. Okay, so then we're done with this.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. We will now move to 10.3.1. No, that was, we were part of, they were all together, weren't they, 2.8 and 9? No?
No, they are separate. One is a public hearing on original budget. The second is a public hearing on reserves. As a reminder,
reserves.
there's
I
a
missed it.
reserve requirement that if certain conditions, 4 conditions are met, we have to reduce our reserves. Not all 4 conditions have been met for the 2018-19 year, so we point that out. Secondly, we point out where our reserve balances are based on the 3% economic reserve requirement from the state, the board's additional 2% requirement, and other designations. We also note the negotiated settlements on the unrestricted side of the budget. So even with that, we have a remaining undesignated balance of $7.3 million. So again, financially, we're in a healthy position, knowing that we still have obligations related to our negotiated settlement in out year. So this is really a public hearing related to our reserve balance.
So I open the public hearing on our original budget reserve disclosure. Any discussion from anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can I speak during?
Yes,
the
you may.
Okay, I'm a public. Kevin, when the legislature passed AB, what was it, AB 858 last year, they made some changes in reaching the markers that would put the Prop 98 reserve thing into play. Do you feel that that we're actually pretty safe now with that legislative change?
I think the biggest piece to that legislation was the County Office of Education can basically override it if we provide them a reason why we need those reserves.
Right.
And I think that helps, because I think when you start looking at AB 1200, who does that? It's the County Office of Education. So I think in that regard, we're in a better place. I still think the idea of making us reduce reserves because certain conditions are met and taking that out of your authority does not match with the local control funding formula. So I think we're better, but frankly, I just wish the whole legislation was non-existent.
Right. Well, we have an opportunity possibly to push for additional changes if it looks statewide like things are not going to work. So if it looks like things aren't going to work in the, that you see coming, let us know, because we have professional organizations that we belong to that we can lobby. And, if we need to, we can do that.
Great. Well, thank you.
Okay, I am going to now close the public hearing. Okay, and
I move 10.2.9.
it says action.
It says action.
Yeah, it is actually, we would like to have public hearing. You take action to approve the disclosure.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. Okay, motion's been made in second. Do we have any other discussion on this? I see none. Any from the audience? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. Now we move to 10.3.1. This is informational, and it's the first reading of our revised update to new board policies. Dr. Kaiser.
So I've already asked some questions and gotten responses, but I skipped one. So on Board Policy 1325, page 2, 1325, page 2.
Oh, there we go.
It notes that on any kind of advertising, and I'm thinking of billboards at the high school stadiums, it says that it has to display a statement that the district doesn't endorse any particular, thing. And so I'm just wondering, how do we do that on a billboard?
I think we will have to have prescribed wording that we put on every advertisement, and that is either a requirement of the vendor that is putting up the sign that they include that, or that we have a mechanism in place to attach that to that.
Yes, I think that, we get a new high school and then people get excited about what, the community wants to put up. So that was one. And if you don't mind, then, excuse me, there was the issue of the homeless got settled, thankfully, in terms of its inclusion or exclusion. So I go to 3513.4. 3513.4, page 1. This is drug and alcohol-free schools. And so it makes a point of prohibiting any substance which may not be lawfully possessed, used, or sold in California. And then it specifically identifies cannabis, and it identifies alcoholic beverages. Why isn't tobacco and vaping identified?
Tobacco and vaping have their own board policy.
I haven't seen that here.
I can tell you the number of it.
All right.
I can't remember.
I know. Yeah, it's not in this group, it is in our existing board policies.
So I guess my strong suggestion, you'll see in the mention, it has a number for tobacco, but I wouldn't see a reason as to why we wouldn't list it here, since the regs are about preventing drug and alcohol, and tobacco is a drug.
Yeah, it's actually board policy 3513.3. So it does have its own policy, and I think the reason it has its own policy is because there are grants, as we've already talked about this evening, and the $2 dollars that are very specific to those policies.
And it includes vaping?
I cannot tell you that it does.
Well, I'm raising issues.
Perhaps we can reference on that policy our tobacco policy.
Currently, the policy says that means inhaling, exhaling, burning, or carrying of any lighted or heated cigar, cigarette, pipe, tobacco, or plant product intended for inhalation, whether natural or synthetic, in any manner or form, and includes the use of an electronic smoking device that creates aerosol or vapor, or any oral smoking device for the purpose of circumventing the prohibition of smoking. So while it does not say vaping, I think it covers the aspects of vaping.
Okay, so...
and we'd be happy to email that policy to you.
Okay, so one of the issues that has started to show up in the United States and internationally now, because there was just a case in England, is about a drug that's currently under study by the U.S. Food and Drug, but it hasn't been clarified yet, and it's a drug that is specifically non-addictive. It's a derivative of cannabis, but its application is to children who have severe and continuous seizures. And Britain just had a case where the mother was in a component where she could get it legally, then she didn't have it, so she went to Canada, got it legally, came back, and England confiscated it, and her son 12th, went into severe seizures, had to be hospitalized, and I think facing his impending death. England decided, oh, well, for this kid, we'll let him do it. But it has left him in a very, very crisis-oriented state. So I know the work is going on to try to clarify the medical status of this, but there's a lot of back and forth. And so what would be the situation for us if we had a child of that nature and a parent who had the drug to give them, but needed to come on campus to do it?
So we do have to follow state and federal laws. So at this particular point, that is not something that we by law are allowed to do. But we do have other programs where students can be in the home medical, they can be in an independent study program, they can be in our new online program, so we would have programs available that those students could be in. My guess is that as research continues, the laws will catch up with medicine, but at this particular point, I'm not sure that they have.
Well, my understanding is that the drug actually can take a kid from continuous seizures to going week, 2 weeks without them, you know. In other words, they could have something like a normal life.
Yeah, and if it becomes an approved drug, then that would be a different situation.
Okay, that's the.
Can I have a point of
Yeah.
procedure or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, my understanding is that, as we always have done in the past, this stage of the process is the original reading, and we really don't go into all of the discussion of the pros and cons of this or adding wording. That the process is that if everybody reads it, reads all of the new policies, we email to Kelly or to Erica what we want or perceive to be something that we have a concern about. We all have the opportunity to read it, and then when it comes back to us for next week, then we can actually have a discussion about it. And I have a concern because, for one thing, I haven't really read all of these yet because it was the first reading, and that has always been our policy. Second, we have people waiting in the audience to just speak about these items. There's 2 items I believe they're here to speak about, and I think we should give them the opportunity to do so, and then we should revert back to our process.
I agree. No, I care, but I just say I agree. Go ahead, tell us what you think. Kathy, hit your point.
Thank you. I do have one policy that I did have a couple of questions on, and the reason why I wanted to do it publicly is because there has been some public dialogue around this policy, and I want, because people are considering more input for next time, too. So I had 2 questions on board policy. Board policy 5116.1, Form 10s.
And you don't think we'll be able to discuss this next one, too?
I do think so, but I think the discussion may change with some discussion and input tonight.
Well,
I don't want to debate it. I want to ask 2 questions and have everybody hear the answers.
Okay. If we're going to have policies like this and ways we approach things, I think we should keep it consistent because, I just think there should be some consistency in this. We've been doing it this way for the past 10 years, as far as I know, and, if your expectation is that you're going to come to a meeting and you're going to maybe listen to people in the audience, but that you're going to get some sort of written notification from your other fellow board members of concerns they have so that you can be able to review those and digest those and then come back, then I just think we should stay consistent with that.
I don't want to debate it. I want a ruling. No, it's up to the chair.
Okay, so you have one. Does anybody else have anything else then? Because Liz is right. We have some people in the audience that we need to listen to. And how about we do yours, and then we're going to move to those two.
That's fine.
Okay, let's do it.
You know, I'm at the pleasure of the chair.
Can I give you a time limit?
It'd be very short.
Go.
Oh, thank you. On the Form 10, there are two, number 5 and number 6, that are optional. And my two questions are, how many staff would be affected by moving 6? Because we have, I think, maybe 2,500 staff. And what would be the impact of just having number 5 with no priority other than the lottery system? And I'm thinking, because of our LCAP goal for targeting our students, what's the term? Our what? Yes, our unduplicated students, that their educational support is our priority through, you know, that possibly giving priority to students that fall into that in the lottery thing. It's just, I'd like to see that information come back at the next meeting.
So if I understand your question, you asked for us to do 3 things. What would be the impact of eliminating number 6 and going only with number 5? Is that correct?
That's part of it. My question on number 6 is, how many employees do we have? Because we have
so total number of employees.
Total number of employees, because this is an employee. I think we're around 2,500 employees, and if we took 5 and split it between the sibling thing and then giving the priority to students that fall within our unduplicated definition.
And then the number of students that make up our unduplicated count. Okay, just making sure I know what I'm getting.
Okay, and then I know we have people here for, I believe, animals at school. Is that true?
Gary, I believe the article or the board policy that Eileen just addressed, we have a couple of speakers for that, which came first, so perhaps she would allow them to speak, and then
yes,
we move on to the next one about the animals on campus.
I thought we already had the speakers.
Well, we had the informal, we had 3 people. Is there anybody here to speak about the Form 10s? So you're satisfied at this point? Okay, so do you work for the school district? No, so you're just part of parents from Form 10. So do you have an opinion though on the Form 10s?
Come and tell us.
Yeah. Just take a second. I mean, I want to hear it. Can you please come up, please?
I'm a Form 10 parent. So my first child was a Form 10, and it wasn't. It was just, if he got in, he got in. If not, he didn't. No big deal. But my second child was a Form 10. So we were part of the Form 10 sibling with, and I think we were like 10th on the list. So we didn't know until like 2 days before school started we got him in. So it was very hard to explain to my 5-year-old he may not go to school with his brother. So that's my thought, to have, siblings are a priority, but in the same sense, teachers, if I can't talk to the teacher because they have to go straight away after, then, so it's kind of like, it's kind of hard to explain. I have it all written. I wasn't expecting to talk, so.
You're saying that you are in favor of the teachers having the priority?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's times I've had to talk with the teachers after school, and my time is very limited. Their time's very limited, so it's hard to come across a time where we both can talk about my son math. Math is hard for us, so I had actually talked with his teacher, and he may have like 2 minutes to talk because he has to run to go get his kids from their school, and that's really not cohesive to a good teacher-parent relationship where I want my kid to succeed, and he can't. He has a hard time succeeding because I don't understand. Like Common Core math, I don't understand Common Core math. That's a whole new for me. So he was able to explain it to me because he has kids with other. It makes it easier if the teacher has their students. And
Okay.
it's fair.
All right. Thank you for bringing that forward. That's the best argument I've heard yet, so thank you.
Just a question, though, for staff. Are teachers contracted to be on campus up
Yes.
to a certain time?
Correct. 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. And then,
It's still contract. Did you hear that response? That teachers are required to be on campus 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after class time?
All right. Thank you. So are we finished with the Form 10s at this point?
and we do have letters that we will share.
And you have letters that you will
came,
share.
I believe from both.
Thank you so much for staying all this time. I really appreciate it. Okay, so now we can move over to animals at school. Board policy, 6163.2. Does anybody have something they'd like to speak to us about on that?
Sorry, I came from a softball game, so it's a little different. Thanks. Kevin had emailed, I'm Rose Wankin, and I work with Neighborhood Cat Advocates, done trapping at school sites for the feral cats and try and adopt kittens out and stuff like that. Anyway, so he had emailed the policy that you have in front of you, and I had given him some other language. I emailed him back, and we just haven't been able to connect with whether you got it or. So we just made a couple of corrections, or one sentence that we didn't understand what it meant. So Kevin could explain maybe that one. So we just said that on this policy, where it starts, individuals shall not feed animals on campuses. And then we said the district may work with advocacy groups to curtail wild or feral cat or kitten, and we put kitten populations. And it's called trap, neuter, return. Because the idea is that obviously if we can adopt them out, we'll take them and do that. But if we can and they're feral, we return them back because there's no other place to really take them. And then the sentence that says, an effort shall be made to replace feral cats at different locations other than school sites, considering the health and welfare of the animal. I wasn't sure what that meant. So what I said was, feeding, monitoring, and trapping activities for rescue, which would mean adoption or health-related issues, which we would take cats that are sick and euthanize them, and or surgical sterilization purposes may occur with express written agreement between the district and a formal nonprofit organization supporting animals at the district's discretion. So I wasn't sure what the sentence about replacing the feral cats meant. That's all I didn't know.
Gary? Because we sat in on the meeting together, and I think what the word should be actually is with an effort shall be made to relocate feral cats to different locations other than the school sites, considering the health and welfare of the animal. So, for whatever reason that they need to be relocated for their health and welfare, was that?
That was one of our intents in the conversation. We wanted to at least start to work with the ag community, for instance.
Turn yours off.
So we wanted to work with the ag community, for instance, and possibly finding a different place for the cats if it could be done safely and in a healthy manner for the cat. So that was the intent behind that language, was really to say if we can find a place and put them somewhere else where it works, we'd like to at least have that option first. If we can't and they need to be returned to the site because of the health of the animal, we would acknowledge that. But the intent was in our conversation to try and work with other groups, ag community, for instance, of finding another place if we could. Because we definitely shared the same goal of reducing, ultimately, the cat populations on our campuses. So
yeah, it was kind of like, if I recall our conversation, it was that depending on the health, there were issues with a couple of sick cats. Right. And we, trapping them and removing them so that, determination could be made what their status was going to be. But we didn't want to get too detailed with like what you went in, with your phraseology, because we want to keep that just kind of open and say, based on what's going on with the cats, with the health, our main objective is to reduce the number at the schools and have them be non-existent there for health purposes, and do that in the best practices way with the trap, neuter, return. So the use of the word replace has to get out of there. So it has to be the trap, neuter, and return practices, and then to relocate would, instead of the word replace, in that an effort shall be made to relocate feral cats to different locations other than the school sites, considering the health and welfare of the animal. That would be where the relocate comes in.
Okay, and I guess with the relocate, you would have to make sure that wherever you're relocating, those people are agreeing to the relocation.
Right, and that was the whole issue, and we discussed that and I don't know if there could be some sort of other term that could be used with that, because we also discussed the difficulty in that happening.
Right.
And that was virtually impossible.
I would love to say that we could do that, because, yeah.
So I don't know if there's any other word that...
Well, the replace, I think, was a word that didn't make sense, in the sense that when you replace something, you bring something back, or you put something in its stead, so maybe the relocate. I would say it's not considering the health and welfare of the animal, it's mostly relocating, provided that there is someone who's willing to accept them. I mean, that's what you're doing, is it's not whether the cat is healthy or sick or not. I mean, if we trap and we have a sick cat, we do not bring them back to wherever it is. We're not returning them because they're sick, and so our policy is that we would euthanize. But if they're healthy cats and there's no other option out there to relocate them, and we try to adopt them out. If we can tame them down, we'll find somebody that maybe we can adopt. But if that's not the case and they're feral, we as an organization would return them back to wherever we got them, because we have no other option. We do not, and we don't.
Well, this just basically says an effort shall be made to relocate feral cats when possible, or when
I think we need to discuss this next
sites.
That's what we talked about
Yeah,
earlier.
but
wording?
Yes, but what the objective was here was to get the wording so you could approve the wording.
Right.
Because we wanted to have the right wording. So if we leave it just to relocate, and then we bring it back and we all have a chance to discuss it, then that would be the opportunity. Because then if we wanted to add other words or discuss yeah. Okay, but if that wording, replace those words, if that's what you and
Right,
Kevin
and that's all. I think
discussed.
that's the only thing that we had that would have
Because
changed.
all this was
Yeah.
kind of hashed out before.
Thank you, Gary. I like the, the wording, an effort, excuse me, shall be made to relocate feral at different locations. I think it made clear what you both just said, so that there is room, if an effort to be made isn't successful, that the cat can be returned to where it came from. But that part is missing, probably. But that is the concept that I'm hearing you say was intended, and that's what I support. If that wording can come back as you've just pointed it out, Liz, that's where the discussion would then get.
Yeah, I have that information that Rose provided. I would just like to thank them personally for spending the time to meet with us and go through that. So Rose has been very generous with her time. I don't see any problem with the language that's been discussed. We'll put those changes in and then bring it back.
All right, I'm done with 10.3.1. Till next time. Items from the floor. Does anybody have anything else they want to speak of, about? No. Any other announcements?
I'd like to do an announcement, and
Okay.
that's just a general thank you to Dr. Kaiser for the work she does with the international educators through Chico State and thing. I know it's valuable to them, and it's also valuable to us to realize that, the rest of the world is interested in what we do, and that if she meaning Dr. Kaiser, can also bring back some of what they share, that's of interest to us. So I just really appreciate the time, Kathy, that you put in those projects. Thank you.
Sheesh.
Thank our League of Women Voters observer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, this is what you're given every student.
Okay, I said shut down, and it didn't shut down. Do I have to sign out first?
No.
Yes, you sign out first.
Oh.
No, you don't need to. Yeah, you don't need to.
All right.
It works.
And
You just have to hit it twice.
And you made the